Okay, good evening. We'll call this regular board meeting for Wednesday, March 5th to order at 5:32 p.m. It was a wonderful way to start the meeting, the prelude from Palmer High School, and I will get to them in a minute. Before we get to that, roll call, please. Ms. Olson.
Director Bankus? Here. Director Carey?
Here.
Director Hafley?
Here.
Director Jorgensen?
Present.
Director Malpacum?
Here.
Director Nelson?
Here.
Director Ott?
Here.
All 7 board members present in person at the board meeting today. I want to give a huge shout out to the students from Palmer High School. They put on an awesome performance, and I hope the people in the audience got to enjoy it, and hopefully some of the people at home got to enjoy them as well. I want to invite their teacher up to the podium up here, Ms. Elena Zaraki. If you can come and share a couple of noteworthy items about your students, your program for the community. Thank you.
Well, my name is Elena Zarecki. I'm the Director of Choirs at Palmer. It's my first year at Palmer High School. I was previously at Martinez Elementary in the district. The girls that you saw tonight, they're our honors jazz choir, and they're amazing. I love them. But they sing a wide variety of music, from vocal jazz to pop a cappella. And they'll be going to the Chassa Jazz Festival coming up in April at Cheyenne Mountain High School. It's been a couple years since they've gone, so I'm excited to take them and see how they do for the judges. But we also have a musical coming up at Palmer, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, in April, that I'm co-directing with our theater teacher, Marin Grimm. So we'd love to see some board members in the audience. It's April 10, 11, and 12 at 7 p.m. And we're gonna have a live pit orchestra. Palmer has not had a live pit in a while, so that's exciting. But the arts are alive and well at Palmer. So thank you so much for
Appreciate it.
everything. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you. You said April 10th, 11th, and 12th. If you could be kind enough to send us an invite, that way we can put that on our calendar. Thank you so much. And good luck in that jazz festival that you are competing at. You guys are awesome. Please join me as we observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Director Ott, can you please make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I move that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ms. Olson.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The agenda is adopted as presented. Pledge of Allegiance. May I please have the students from Bristol Elementary School to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Come up to the front up here. And the flag is, yeah. You guys start. Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you again. Today's spotlight is peak experience. Superintendent Gall, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, if I get the team to come forward. To the board and the community, we're shifting gears a little bit. Normally, we take an existing program and bring it to the board and community for spotlight. We wanted to do a little bit of tipping our hand on what's to come. The team has spent the better part of the year working on this idea of how do we deliver a competency-based demonstration of knowledge at every grade level across the pre-K to 14 experience inside of District 11. And so today they're going to give you an overview and then a hyper-specific example of one that will be rolling out at the end of April with a chance for us to participate, and our Bristol students will be the ones who will help us do that. I'd like to introduce our Chief of Strategy, Ms. Ottmer.
Good evening, board. We're excited to talk to you about peak experiences. As the superintendent said, a competency-based demonstration of knowledge helps us know that our students are both acquiring the skills and applying them, transferring those skills to unique applications. We have had peak experiences in the design lab. They are being worked on, but we were also able this fall to take part in an audit to poll across the system all of the teachers at multiple schools saying, what are you already doing that might elevate to a peak experience? Something that's critical to understand in our peak experiences is it's not just a typical field trip or something like that. There is a learning arc completely connected to that experience so that students are learning standards and then applying that knowledge as they go across. So you see here, it's to ignite curiosity. It's to foster agency. We've talked about that word agency a few times. There's not one way to develop that, but what it means is having students take ownership in their education so they're not passive to the experience. That's what peak experiences are helping us do. You've had presentations throughout the year of some of the big shiny ones, like our students study abroad in high school where they're going on trips to other countries. That matters, as do the ones that occur in everyday classrooms where students are just applying their learning through unique contexts and really getting into deeper projects to make sure that they can bring together math skills and ELA skills and apply them in cross-curricular ways. This graphic is kind of intended to show, you know, the words we've been talking about: expose, explore, and experience. And so if we think of that larger band that's wider, we can think of the elementary level, where our investments right now are to take peak experiences that may have been occurring in the system or develop new ones, one of which Bristol and the rest of the team is going to share with you tonight, where we say, let's expose all third graders or all fifth graders to this type of learning and really see if we can ignite all of them. The one that's coming up, I'll steal a tiny bit of thunder, is a rocket day. We do not anticipate out of that every single student is going to want to go into rocketry because they had that experience, but it'll start to inform their interests and ignite curiosity on, if I get interested in this, what other things might I pursue around this? Or if I really didn't like it, that's good to start to understand too, to develop my interests further. That yellow block we kind of think of in the middle school frame or when we're exploring. We want to hone those tighter in middle school, also starting to connect to what might I want to do with my life and my future based on the interests that I've been developing throughout elementary and throughout middle school. Because when all of our students graduate, we want them to have a plan as they walk across that stage. It's not the finish line for us, it's the beginning of what comes next. And so in that blue triangle, you really see that experience where in high school with peak experiences, we're honing in on those interests you've curated and developed and making sure that you have opportunities toward interest-based learning to apply all of the skills that you've learned throughout your K-12 education. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Flanagan to talk a little bit more about some examples.
All right, so I'm Lana Flanagan, Principal on Special Assignment. Really focused on, my work this year is really focused around peak experiences and then also a little bit with graduation requirements. But as Nicole alluded, we really thought that our work, the work that we're doing this semester is from what we learned last semester through our audit of what was already in existence and how could we scale that. And also just developing that definition of peak experiences that was shared earlier. So our work this semester in the design lab is really at the elementary level. We are designing more opportunities to eventually be able to have something at every grade level for all students. The goal would be to say that every first grader in D11 would have this experience. just as what we're going to show later in this presentation. At the middle school level, we're really looking at refining opportunities to ensure that the interests are being developed, that kids are understanding what they're interested in, and we're exposing them and allowing them to explore those opportunities in career fields or pathways. And finally, at the high school level, we're honing that development in those interest areas and making sure that they're peak experiences where students can take a deep dive into their own interests and passions. That's the personalization of it for every student. So up here are some current examples that were identified through the audit, as well as some others that have been developed this year for our students at each level. And now I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Gall, and D11 community. I'm super excited to be here today to talk about rocket launch. So this is the newest system-wide peak experience. You bet. Thanks. The newest system-wide peak experience, and thanks to a unique partnership with UCCS, Lockheed Martin, Colorado Springs Rocks, and Estes Rockets, we are able to provide an opportunity for all fifth grade students in D11 to launch rockets. In addition to that, to just ignite and engage them in the idea of rocket science, physical science standards, as well as STEM learning. Students will not only launch the cosmic ray rocket provided by Estes Rockets at Memorial Park, but they will also engage in a really rich, standards-aligned learning arc that has been co-developed by a teacher team in D11, and we happen to have one of those members here with us today from Bristol, Melissa Madsen. And those lessons have been thoughtfully designed to really inspire curiosity and innovation and bring this peak experience to life in a full learning arc. So we have 5 fabulous students from Bristol Elementary, and their families are here as well, and teachers from Bristol. We also have Melissa Madsen, STEM coordinator, and she is on our learning design team. We have Gabe Hamill, a principal at Bristol, Christy Bacchio, who is our science and health facilitator, and Dr. Lauren Murphy, director of math and science, who have all been part of designing this system-wide peak experience. So Bristol team, come on up.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Gall and D11 community.
My name is Avery McGee, and I'm a 5th grader at Bristol Elementary.
My name is Stella, and I'm a 5th grader at Bristol Elementary.
My name is Ellie Lalonde, and I'm a 5th grader at Bristol Elementary.
My name is Sawyer, and I am a 5th grader at Bristol Elementary.
My name is Ellie Wurr, and I am a 4th grader at Bristol Elementary.
We are excited to talk with you about the 5th grade Peak Experience Rocket Launch Day.
We want to ignite your interest in this learning opportunity.
We are going to show you a short video to ignite your interest and spark your curiosity. We want to get you thinking about rocket science, physical science, and engineering.
We want to invite you to inquire as you watch the video. Think about the phenomena of rocketry and forces of light.
We gonna build one that big in here? You might when you grow up.
So you said you're in fifth grade. Are you ready to go to middle school now? Move on up? Middle school next year. Are you ready? What school is it? Home.
We're excited to hear that. All right, Christy, we got a framework here. You got us. We got markers. We're good. She had the iPad. You guys did. We watched it.
Now we will work with you to generate 1 to 2 inquiry questions, a complex open-ended question that frames learning and brainstorm some key terms and ideas that you would like to learn to understand more about rocket science and the forces of flight.
Can you describe to me the inquiry question?
From watching the video, does anything come to mind for you? What would you ask your teacher when you see that video?
I would ask what the process was for
Okay. Oh, that was a bit right for it.
I see you again. Yeah.
How exciting. I have one. Do we have to carry a payload?
I know we could probably spend hours generating questions, but We want to thank our students for engaging you and sparking your interest in the rocket launch. And actually, they are going to give you an invitation now to a personalized invitation to the rocket launch. And if you so decide, you can not only come along, but you can build a rocket.
So this is an example of the rockets that they're going to be building, except that theirs are going to be red, white, and blue.
If I could get the team to come back forward to answer questions to the board. Who didn't get a rocket?
Can't start building tonight.
Thank you, guys.
So as we transition to Q&A, I want to give my public thanks to Lana and the rest of the team for just moving with incredible speed this year to bring some of these ideas to bear. Can you go back to the example slide, the rubric? Many of the things that we're calling peak experiences are things that we already do in District 11, but we want to put them under an umbrella that they don't stand isolated. Anytime you're isolated in a school system, you're always at risk of a budget cut. And so particularly when you look at high schools, we've been doing study abroad, we do field experiences, we've had job shadows and apprenticeships for over a year now, but we're trying to communicate that there's so much more value to the educational experience than just the test score. We are measured by the test score, and so that's a game we have to play. But when you see, and it was difficult to hear, but the really deep thought and reflection that the students were bringing at 5th grade to really inquiry questions, which is an engineering step, and then this idea of, Stella shared with us that she really didn't quite understand gravity until she started talking about a rocket. Now, probably understanding gravity is something that happens in 10th or 11th grade physics, but now we have 5th graders who are thinking about that as they go through the rest of their time. And so this peak experience is designed to be a culmination of learning each year, and we know we can't get all the interest right. So go back one more slide to the graduated scale. To be broad at the beginning of elementary school allows kids to see what's that balance. And now go forward to the other slide. You'll see 3rd grade has Phil Kids, where we're giving kids a visual and performing arts opportunity to be with our Philharmonic. And 5th grade's rocketry. So yes, if your kid's into the arts, they might really love the 3rd grade experience, and they might not get as much out of rocketry. But if your kid's thinking about being a rocket scientist, they're going to be really excited about 5th grade. As we get down to high school, we want each one of our children every year to have a personalized experience outside the classroom that motivates them to want to come to school. If you're the captain of the girls' volleyball team, we're going to turn that into a peak experience. We'll put frameworks around it of what it means to be a leader of a team. And if you're the 17th person on the JV team, that's probably not going to count as a peak experience. How do kids bring their learning to life is our goal. We want every kid to have a diploma, but we want the diploma to represent what they're going to do, not just what they've done in the past. So questions, please, for this team. This is a work in progress, and we expect to be about 1/3 of the way there to start for next year, and then in 3 years be completed that we can get each one of our grades a peak experience for their time at D11.
Questions? Thank you. Director Jurgensen.
Not really a question, but just a comment of, seeing that triangle, sideways. That's great. I mean, the green is our quality. They're all our quality neighborhood schools, but it's our foundational piece that we're laying at the elementary level. Basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, and then getting those personal experiences more honed in and dialed in, and allowing kids to have an idea of what they want to do and go to after they leave us here in D11. So I like it. Makes sense.
Director Bankers.
I want to comment on when I first came on the board 3 years ago, we talked about our dropout rate. And in the 3 years since that, we continue to talk about how we're going to engage our children and keep them involved all the way through to graduation. In your comment, Mr. Gall, on graduation is, what are they going to do? Graduation, and my terms when I graduated, is it was the end. And then you had this whole world from which you could choose. And now we're giving them a pathway that says, I'm going to try this one. And we all know you probably won't stay with the same job for your entire life. So these experiences give us an opportunity to delve into some of those interests and develop them and know that we gain skills no matter what it is that we learn. And I appreciate the work that's gone into this. I appreciate having been a 5th grade teacher, having launched rockets. It was a field trip. We didn't do the deep dive. We did not do the deep dive. So this is an exciting opportunity for our kids in building the blocks to bring that graduation rate up and to have our kids engaged and to give them purpose so they're not thrown out into the world. Because everybody is asked, what are you going to do after you graduate? And how many times at 17 and 18 were you able to say, oh, I'm going to be? We just don't operate that way. And this is an opportunity for kids to really have a focus and include parents in that opportunity. So when they decide on an interest that they have, parents can create opportunities for them, whether it's going to the museum, whether it's taking a trip to Cape Canaveral, whether it's thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Director Hafley.
I want to echo what the other directors have said, so I won't repeat it, but know that I ditto, okay? But beyond that, I, for one, have never shot off a rocket, so I am very much looking forward to this. What happens if the weather's bad? What's your plan for that?
We have backup dates.
You have backup dates? Will you send an email or something?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be at Memorial Park 4 successive days, so we're going to just kind of take over that part of the city. And we dummy down the parachutes so they go straight up and come straight down. So, the win is mine drifted 3 miles away and landed on the highway and caused a major backup. We've engineered around that.
And there's a wonderful little QR code on the back of your invitation that has a video that you can watch to build your rockets.
Director Ott.
Thank you. Just that previous slide, I believe, that had the list of experiences and so current to scale. Just curious if there are any additional experiences that might be out there that you haven't listed yet? Many? Tons? All right. I would love to see that list sometime, just out of curiosity to see what more I can recommend about District 11.
Yeah, so we'll bring a list as we close the school year out to the board, probably in a work session, or we'll put it in a Mars for you to see. The goal here is, again, in 3 successive years, we're trying to do a little bit of elementary, a little bit of middle, a little bit of high school each year, such that we don't just overwhelm one system and forget the others. And as you can see, many of the high school items already exist, and so now we're just putting them together. I would say the biggest opportunity for us has been middle school. Many of the elementary schools, this rocket idea is not brand new. We launched rockets last year at Taylor. I'm certain we've done it at other schools as well, but I saw it happen at Taylor, and then we thought to ourselves, why doesn't every school get that chance? But middle school is going to be an opportunity for us to lean in and think differently about that. Again, when you think about this, go back a slide to the graduated one, of moving ourselves from exposed to exploring and then to experience. Experience defines itself. We have 8 paid apprenticeships in the district. We want to double that every year until we get well over 50, somewhere to about 50 to 100 kids in the system. Those are easy. Rocket Day is easy, not really easy, but what do you do at middle school? I mean, any middle school teachers in the audience, right? Thank you, right? Because middle school is that great challenge space. How do we transition kids from the nest of its elementary school and we're going to go to Memorial Park and build a rocket into the what is your hyper-specific interest? So we still have some work to do on the middle school part. We do have strengths in the system that we think we can lean on and then try and get them to scale without impacting the specificity of where they already exist.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions from the board, thank you for the presentation. And for the community that is watching, if you go back one slide, actually, if you could. That slide which lists all the experience. Yeah, there you go. That one. I wasn't sure which way it is. But there are so many experiences out there. I was talking to a high school student recently and asked the student about what his interest was. And he was talking about his interest in cooking and culinary, and he wants to graduate and go into being a chef. And then I asked him, do you know that District 11 offers culinary program that you as a student can explore that pathway and also potentially go to an internship or an apprenticeship with one of our local restaurants? And the student was unaware of it. So there are so many of those programs out there. In the summer, our local industries are looking for interns. And a couple of years back, what was communicated in a public session was that there were 105 internship openings for high school students in the Pikes Peak region, and only a third of that was filled. And so many of our students work in the summertime in fast food restaurants, and nothing against that, but getting an experience in an industry and ensuring that they have that pathway open up, it's eye-opening that there is a potential possibility that you can graduate and go to college and come back and at 21 and 22 get a salary that's upwards of 6 figures. So I would encourage our high school students and their families to explore all these opportunities. Talk to your counselors as well. Thank you. Superintendent Gall, I'll turn it over back to you for your report.
Great. If I could get Stella and Sawyer to come on up to my chair here. You're first, Stella. The microphone's hot, and you get to tell us all about your teacher you want to thank.
All right. A huge shout out to my amazing 5th grade teacher, Miss Fry. She taught me a skill that stuck with me. Always put a comma before a quote. She's also incredibly funny and always has us laughing with her jokes. One of my favorite memories is when we took a picture together in our Punctuation Saves Lives shirts. It was so much fun.
Is Mrs. Frey here?
No.
But who is standing up for you?
Mr. Hamill.
All right, Principal Hamill, thanks for representing. Thanks. She's retiring. Can you tell that to everybody it's her last year?
It's her last year.
All right, round of applause for Mrs. Frey. All right, your turn, Sawyer. Are you here, Miss Lane? Okay, Gabe again.
A huge shout out to Miss Lane, my teacher. She helps all the students with whatever they need and is just a nice teacher. She does a lot of stuff for us, and she is funny and all that.
What does she teach for you?
Math. She teaches math and science.
Awesome, great. All right, round of applause for Miss Lane. Thanks, sir. Good job. Thank you, Principal Hamill, for representing both of our teachers. We have other teachers from Bristol. Can they please kind of stand up and be recognized as well? Anything I could do to embarrass Trish is always one of my goals at every meeting. Stand up. Go ahead, Trish, scream it out.
My story is Gall blew us off for the superintendent coffee, but he came in the next day, and I'm the PE teacher, and my back was totally out. So I'm rolling around in my chair as he's walking through the door, and I'm like, I was mortified because I never sit down, but my back was out, and he's rolling in the chair. I mean, I was rolling in the chair, so that's not my typical aspect. So.
But I was wearing jeans, so you won the bet, so it was good. Thank you all to the Bristol staff, particularly for leading the way on the peak experiences. A couple of exciting hiring updates. I didn't put a slide in here, but we've hired 5 new principals for next year based upon forecasted retirements and changes of career paths. So we're so excited to be early in the hiring season. We're announcing here our teacher hiring fair for this Saturday, March 8th. Will be super exciting. We're going to let everybody's kind of walking out. Bye, Bristol. We'll see you in the morning. We had a teacher hiring event a week and a half ago as well, up the one that goes statewide, and we had a double percentage increase in the number of people that were choosing D11 as their first choice. So our reputation is preceding us on good opportunities exist here. You can see a starting salary at $50,500. That's been creeping up with our cost of living. We're super excited also for the support that's come with the benefits package, and that we're just all in on ensuring that our teachers are part of the equation of the number one way to student achievement is access to high quality instruction. We're so committed that not just are we having a teacher fair, but we're excited to announce that today we posted the first $100,000 annual teacher salary position in District 11. These will be one-offs by school as we go to site-based budgeting. Schools have been able to introduce kind of a master teacher role. But please, if you're interested in actually being paid a real livable wage for the work that you do, come look at what we're offering inside District 11. We think $100,000 is the standard of what teachers ought to be able to make, and we're starting that right now, right here at Holmes Middle School. Updating on our ABCs, the attendance Power School attendance suite continues to roll out. We've completed step 2, the SMS attendance digest, and monthly postcards will start going out tomorrow. I think there's 2 great parts. We there are still data errors in the system. Sometimes we'll hear from a family, that's not true. Here's my child, they're at school, so then we're able to correct that. It's always important for us to know from an accountability perspective. But secondly, we're also getting a lot of interest back from our families that said, I didn't realize that the missing of school had such a dramatic effect on learning. We have the data available. We'll be sharing an attendance update to the board in a work session by the end of the year. It's not rocket science, no pun intended, but every day that you miss school increases your likelihood of not passing that grade at a statistically significant rate. Super excited for that partnership with Power School and for our ability to roll out this suite of services. This is a bit of a dated slide just because we're doing one board meeting a month, but about a month ago I had the honor, privilege, and opportunity to present our state turnaround plan of Galileo Middle School to the State Board of Education. We got a unanimous vote, 9-0, to approve the community school pathway for Galileo. I asked our principal be here tonight. Unfortunately, she's under the weather and wasn't able to come today, but she also sends her strong support and thanks for really just what was a really well-developed plan on how we brought in a good quality third partner in joint initiatives to actually already open the Ascend Center. So for those of you who don't know, we'll be providing a community school opportunity at Galileo. And to summarize, a community school is where you can get the types of supports that you normally have to pull your kid out of school, you can get them now in the basement at Galileo. So if your student is struggling with some mental or behavioral supports that they need, we can provide that through these partners that we have through joint initiatives on site. And you can see that there are family support services there as well. We're super excited. The timeline is this year is kind of the planning year for it. We already have the partnership with joint initiatives, and they're downstairs at the Ascend Center. But you'll really start to see those programs roll out in earnest starting next year and then be full up and ready the year after that. I certainly love the one or the several comments we got from the state board that said this may be the best turnaround plan they've reviewed. For those of you that aren't aware, when your school has been on the state watch list for 5 years running, there are 5 options that the state can direct you to do. 1 is to close the school. 2 is to charter the school. 3 is to create an innovation zone within the school. 4 is to create an academic management partnership where you have external parties helping you run the school. And the 5th is to do a community school. Galileo will be the first community middle school in the state of Colorado. So we're super proud of the work that they put forward in this, and obviously the chance for District 11 to bring Galileo to a place where it's not on the list, but it's actually servicing the community with the needs that we know that they have. I'd now like to ask a good friend of mine, Mary Faith Hall, to please stand up to be recognized for a second. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Colorado League of Charter Schools actually recognized Mary Faith. She's the co-founder of the Thomas McLaren School. Now, I just have to, I know starting new schools are hard, but a portfolio works. In 2008, Mary Faith, as a co-founder, had 77 kids to start that school, taking over a middle school that District 11 had closed because we were unable to provide a demand signal in that part of town. Now at over 1,000 children at the Thomas McLaren School, and since 2021 has been or actually since 2018 has been performance rated, but since 2021, all elementary, middle, and high school students in meets or exceeds categories on state tests. So we asked the rhetorical question inside of our traditional schools, can we get a single school where all third graders read on grade level? There's your answer. Mary Faith, you've done it. We're so happy and so proud to have you inside our portfolio. I'd love for you to just share a couple of minutes of your journey with the board and the community, and anything that you think that we could be doing more of to support you in education in general.
Superintendent Gall and Board of Directors, thank you for having me tonight. It's a real honor to be here. The Colorado League of Charter Schools presented me with this Lifetime Award recognition because I'm retiring, and that is very exciting for me. I've been working at this since 2007, and we have just grown and grown. We were first a middle and high school, and now we're a full K-12. And I was standing here a year ago talking to most of you as we were seeking authorization under District 11. And I just want to say thank you for being such great partners to us. And we hoped it would go well, but this first year, logistically there are some bumps, different platforms and things like that. But really, the D11 staff has been excellent to work with. And I'm very encouraged by this partnership, and please know I'm retiring, but the school is in great hands. We have a great team, and so on to many more years of Thomas McLaren in Colorado Springs.
Great. Thank you, Mary Faith.
Thank you.
Okay, and now's our chance for our student spotlight. Chloe, would you like to come forward, introduce yourself, and tell us all about you in District 11?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today about myself and my school. I'm Chloe Lewis. I'm currently a junior at Odyssey Early College and Career Options. And as a student athlete, I value the strong academics that Odyssey has to offer, while also being able to compete in sports at Doherty High School. As you know, there are 8 different grad profiles in D11, and I feel that I most align with 3 of them. I'm an academically ready learner, a skilled communicator, and a healthy and balanced learner. As an academically ready learner, Odyssey gives me the unique opportunity to earn an associate's degree from Pikes Peak State College while still in high school. I've been off campus at Pikes Peak since my second semester sophomore year, and since then I've learned countless experiences such as navigating both in-person and online classes. Odyssey has given me the tools and the foundation to be fully prepared for college and have taught me how to independently build my semester schedules, order my books, and be comfortable with independence in a college environment. As a skilled communicator, I'm earning my designation in communication, which is similar to a minor that will be used to complement my major of an Associate of Arts. I work with my professors on a daily basis and collaborate with classmates from different backgrounds. This is as opposed to a normal high school class with classmates of all the same age. I must communicate and meet with my counselors regularly to ensure that I'm on track to graduate both high school and college. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about how my unique experience between Odyssey and Doherty have shaped me into a healthy and balanced learner. I compete in sports at Doherty High School, and I'm also a year-round club swimmer. As a high-level athlete, I know the importance of a balanced life. On the sports front, I'm a 3-time 5A state qualifier for swimming and a 2-time varsity letter earner for cross country. I was also the High Point Swimmer of the Year for Doherty. On the academic front, I take pride in being a member of the National Honor Society, and I earned the Academic All-State First Team Award for swimming for maintaining a GPA of 3.8 or higher throughout the season. As I look towards the future, I'll always be grateful for the opportunities that Odyssey and D11 have given me to be successful both as a student and as a person. Thank you again for inviting me here today, and I appreciate all the support. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Great, we're going to ask you a couple of questions too.
Okay.
So thank you for that.
Chloe, you and Superintendent Gall have something in common. Do you want to talk about your flying experience? You want to be a pilot?
Yes, I'm looking to be a pilot. I'm currently looking at a bunch of different schools and trying to figure out like the path to become one.
Great, let's talk afterwards.
Director Hafley.
I just had one question before I ask that, though. Odyssey is an exceptional school.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there many times, and I see Mr. Cooper here. Just what a great place to be.
Yeah.
I see you're a swimmer for Doherty.
Mm-hmm.
What's your stroke?
I'm a breaststroker.
Distance or sprint?
Sprint.
Give me your best. What's your best time?
My best 100 breast time is a 1:11.
Okay. I was a competitive swimmer. Before moving to Colorado, back east, there are plenty of pools. There weren't so many when I was your age coming to Colorado. So that was my stroke as well. And you could have blown me out of the water, so I'll just stop. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chloe, how did you come to choose Odyssey Echo?
I was actually originally planning to go to Doherty until we went to the Odyssey open house. And before that, I didn't really know much about it. But once we went to the open house, I thought it was a really cool opportunity. So.
And then what will you do post-high school with your associate's degree in your back pocket?
I'm hoping that I'll use my associate's degree to get a lot of my core classes in before college. So then once I get to college, I can focus mostly on aviation-related classes.
Great. And you haven't picked a school yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ones.
Good. Great. Mom, Dad, anything?
We are proud and honored to be her parents and feel very fortunate to be part of D11 and Odyssey. It is such a credible opportunity, and to see her on a college campus navigating that. She picks out her own schedule. She knows what books she needs. She runs the show. As a 17-year-old, she is totally independent. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And drives to the Rampart campus by herself. So.
All right, well, thanks, Chloe.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Part of our commitment to transparency on the challenges that we've had in dislocating our Jenkins students, it's time for that update, and we have some significant news to report this evening. Last time we met in Mass, we talked about our geotechnical report being due. We have those preliminary results. They will be posted on the webpage, close of business Monday. We're meeting tomorrow with the geotechnical engineers as well as the Jensen Hughes team to finalize that report. And again, all those reports will be posted close of business on Monday. There is great news in the geotechnical report that says they think they've identified what the challenges on the slippage part of the 7th and 8th grade wing are, and they believe there is, I don't want to say easy, but there are remediation steps that can be taken. So our goal right now is to communicate to our community that rising 6th grade will begin their Jaguar journey in the original Jenkins building in that 6th grade wing for next year. So that'll be a partial occupancy that we do have some steps to take in order to deliver on that. We'll need to remediate both the gym and the media center. We believe that we have the time now to be able to do that, to be ready by August. 7th and 8th grade wings are still yet to be determined. Again, all those engineers and architects and general contractors have been hired. We're now just waiting to put the data that's come from that report in for us to be able to communicate what will happen with our then rising 7th and 8th graders. Our goal is to continue to focus on what it means to be a Jaguar. And I'll tell you, if you have not been to Russell and you have not been to Doherty to see Jaguars in action, please get a chance to go there. What you will see is that same Jaguar experience happening in 2 dislocated locations. My hat's off to the students, my hat's off to the families, and particularly my hat's off to the staff who have had to change their own patterns to be able to deliver that. But boy, you walk into those different hallways and those wings, and you really feel like you're still at Jenkins because it has that same Jaguar pride. So the takeaway there is the goal here is 6th graders back in the building with a remediated media center and auditorium. And then hopefully here right around spring break, we'll be able to communicate if that extends to 7th and or 8th grade as well, what our plan is there. But the good news is partial occupancy is real, and we plan for that in August. And again, getting our students back into not a partially fixed building, but a building that'll be ready for the next generation of Jaguars. A letter will be going out to our community following this meeting and tomorrow following the meeting that we have with our engineers. And again, d11.org or the Jenkins page both have redirects to where all those reports are. And every Wednesday, whether work session or board meeting, I give an update on this. We'll make sure that people have that information as well. And so hats off to all the team that's been a part of this. We've moved with great intentionality and specificity to be able to get where we are today. And I know that's not fast enough for parents. The other thing I'll end with, if you're an out-of-district family and you're not sure, please get your choice into the school that you need to. We will take you back at Jenkins up until the day before school starts. You are always welcome at Jenkins. We are not going to say you missed a permit window. I understand there's lots of moving pieces here for families, and some of you might feel a need to secure a space in your home district middle school. We want you at Jenkins. We know that you committed to Jenkins before. We're going to correct this building that you'll commit to Jenkins in District 11 for the long haul after that. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Board questions or comments? Director Nelson.
I have a couple of questions. Can you expand a little on that position you mentioned at Holmes that is a teacher position for $100,000? And is this going back to the thought of more responsibility, we're going to reward you for that? And can you just explain that a little bit more in depth?
Yeah, so what we now have site-based budgeting, so schools have autonomy within some of their budget to create new positions. And Holmes is looking to create a master teacher position, which will have both classroom responsibility and then coaching responsibility within the building. So it's a first attempt for us to see how do we create that space where those that are super hungry to do something different and wish to be compensated for it can find a home inside District 11.
So this is sort of a new position that has been developed within the district?
Yes, and not taking away a current position. So it's a new opportunity.
Thanks for just giving a little more definition. My second question is, I am just struggling to remember, we as a board approved Galileo as being a community school in the fall. Can you refresh my memory on the funding source for like joint initiatives coming in? Is that District 11 funding that will be providing?
Is Sherry still here?
That partnership?
Yep. I'll have to provide you the exact piece, but this is part of what we had originally briefed to you. There have been no changes by the state. The state gave a thumbs up to the plan that we presented.
Yeah, okay, you can, I just am trying to remember what the funding source was, and I'm struggling to remember that since we had this conversation in the fall. So you can get back to me later.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, no, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, I don't see any other comments or questions. Thank you for the update on Jenkins Middle School. Our promise is to ensure. Is Ms. Call back here?
No, we're fine.
Okay.
We're fine.
Okay.
We've moved on.
Great. Our promise is to ensure that Jenkins students get excellent teaching experience in our schools, whether it's going to be at Jenkins or Russell. But it's good to know that at the minimum, 6th grade students are going to be returning back to Jenkins now, so parents can plan accordingly, and then we will communicate in the near future what's going to transpire as far as 7th and 8th grade. There is a possibility that we can hopefully bring 7th grade students and even 8th grade students to a partial occupancy building out there. Thank you, Superintendent Gall. Moving on to public comments. Do we have public comments, Ms. Olson? We do. Okay. Thank you. Going over the board protocol for public comments, just as a reminder, the board welcomes and is very interested in listening to community feedback as it helps us better do our job. Please approach the podium when your name is called. You have 3 minutes to deliver your remarks. Please monitor the clock that is on display and complete your comments in the allotted time. Board meetings are primarily business meetings for the orderly and efficient conduct of the business of the district. Keeping that in mind, the clear expectation is that your feedback is provided in a civil, professional, and courteous manner without resorting to defamatory or disparaging remarks. Students are often in attendance or watching our broadcast. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes minor students, including no use of profanities or obscenities. To adhere to the board policy and accomplish the work already on the agenda, the board will not respond to comments during this time, but I can assure you that your comments will be taken into consideration as we discuss pertinent agenda items. To maintain the flow of the meeting and not have prolonged interruptions, please refrain from clapping. If you want to show support or solidarity to a speaker, please stand as the speaker is talking or use a silent applause. Lastly, the statements made by the public do not reflect the views of the board or the district. With that, the first comment is by a Coronado High School student, Taylor Morrison. Taylor Morrison. Go ahead.
Members of the board, my name is Taylor Morrison, and my pronouns are he, they. I'm a graduating senior at Coronado High School and a highly involved student who many of you may recognize. I deeply value D11's communities, and I have discovered who I am within its buildings and amongst its people. Though I would not describe myself as brave, I've always admired my trans peers who have been loud and proud about their identities. Those who have never shied away from correcting someone on names or pronouns. That's a bravery I've never seen within myself. Up until this point, I've been able to count the number of people I'm out to on my hands. And if you told me this time last year that my first big coming out would be while speaking to this board about why the ACA policy you intend to enact contradicts everything you stand for, the safety and well-being of your student. But now, here I stand, queer and trans and unashamed. The first adult I came out to was Miss Ziek, sponsor of Coronado's Sexuality and Gender Alliance, SAGA, an act that gave me the space to find my own path without the decisiveness of telling my parents just yet. As trans youth, we face unique challenges. On top of the turmoil that comes with adolescence, we fight against ourselves, the world around us, and the deeply ingrained biases that reside in both. Each day, we battle with our own minds, the world around us and the deeply ingrained biases that reside in both. Every day we fight with ourselves, which is common with teenagers, but it is compounded by a world where we know we are not safe. To find some refuge in that tumult may be the deciding factor between life and death. I know I have asked myself the question before, is this uphill battle worth the fight? And had I not had the people that I do and the time to find my path, the answer to that question may have been no. And I'm one of the fortunate ones. I have two wonderful parents who will always support me for who I am, but I never would have been sure enough in myself to tell them if I wasn't surrounded by support at school. I want to take a moment to address parents who in support of this policy, who are genuinely want what is best for their students. This is not that. I know it can feel terrifying to think that your babies are growing away from you, or that they don't trust you enough to come to you as they find themselves. Trust them, and they will come to you when they are ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Joseph Shelton.
Good evening, board members. My name is Joseph Shelton, and I am a candidate in the November election to sit on this Board of Education. Tonight, I stand in opposition to Action Item 1, Policy ACA. Last month, this room and the space outside these doors were filled with community members who made their voices clear. This policy is a failure in ensuring student safety. Since then, you have held a series of town halls stating that you were listening to the community. And yet, despite overwhelming opposition, you are moving forward with a policy that many of your constituents have fought against. At last month's meeting, Director Ott raised the idea and request to include a provision requiring that if a parent must be notified, the student should be told first. Superintendent Gall responded saying that this was a general rule. But let's be clear, general rules are not rules unless they are written into place. It has been said that it's a general rule that stacking is allowed in UNO, but UNO has confirmed that this general rule is not an actual rule, as it is not written in the actual rules. A general rule is just a suggestion, and without clear accountability, it will be ignored by those who choose not to follow it. I understand your commitment to parental rights, but let's not ignore reality. This policy puts students in harm's way. All it takes is one principal, one assistant principal, or one staff member who does not support LGBTQ+ students to ignore that so-called general rule and out a student before they've had a chance to process themselves. And I know this because I have lived it. I have been the student who has been put in harm's way when an administrator ignored a general rule. I urge you to vote no on this policy and send it back to the policy committee with a clear request. If a parent must be notified, the student must be told first, by the principal, assistant principal, or the individual making the contact. Students deserve safety just as much as you deserve to check your box for protecting parental rights. Vote no on policy ACA. Do what you said you would do. Listen to your community. To the community, if you're ready for real change and a board member that prioritizes honesty, transparency, and revitalization of District 11, visit sheltonford11.com to join in our fight to build a District 11 for all. Before I end my speech, I would like to bring attention to the failure of Superintendent Gall to complete his promise of releasing policies to protect undocumented students while at schools, or at least most of the staff I've spoken to have said they have not seen anything. Superintendent Gall said the policy would be available in a few short weeks. That was almost a month ago. Additionally, Superintendent Gall told me I would see something when the policy was written and submitted. Well, Michael, your students are waiting, your staff are waiting, and your community is waiting. Thank you.
Kate DeJong.
So, I've heard that you're going forward with the name change policy, and I just have a couple questions as a result. So as an employee, I just have to ask, are we dropping the claim that we're data-driven now? You've been presented with so much evidence from so many avenues that this is a bad idea that you have decided to ignore. You've seen the statistics, notably the verifiable statistic that LGBT students without a supportive adult are significantly more likely to attempt suicide. This move that you're choosing right now will make it more dangerous for them to seek out supportive adults. So not only are we not data-driven anymore, what am I to conclude but that you want dead kids? The only people, the last time that I was at a meeting, who were in support of this got truth bombed to their face by a biologist. The science is not on your side. Let's talk legal arguments. I did a little Googling, and I want to read something from the Colorado Civil Rights Division. Colorado Civil Rights Division is charged with investigating claims of illegal discrimination. Discrimination is defined as adverse treatment based on a person's protected class. Examples of protected classes include race, color, religion, national origin/ancestry, sex, pregnancy, disability, sexual orientation, including transgender status. Follow-up question, how much money have we budgeted for lawsuits? How much taxpayer money are you willing to waste defending this asinine policy? And above and beyond that, you have heard the personal testimony of people directly affected by this policy who have lived experience with it. But you're not listening to any of them. You're not listening to any of the evidence. You are listening to the most ignorant people in the room. Question 2, how is this going to improve enrollment? In considering this policy, you very publicly announced that you're not concerned with student safety. You're ignoring the overwhelming evidence that this is a bad call and clearly stating that you're making decisions with no apparent logical basis. Who's going to look at this and your recent track record with decision making and think, gee, I want these people in charge of my child's education? Follow-up question next, okay? When does this qualify as dereliction of duty? When does this become criminal negligence? You are obligated by your positions in the school board to safeguard the children in your care, are you not? And yet here you are gleefully putting our students in harm's way. Isn't that supposed to be your primary function, to protect students? If that isn't, why are you up there? But you know what? Go ahead and ignore my questions. You're going to anyway. You made it clear that your minds are made up. You're going to dance to the tune of a handful of well-funded bigots. So go ahead, say it loud, say it proud in front of God and your constituents. D11 is okay with dead children.
Ms. Devin Chatron.
Hi, my name is Devin Chatron. I graduated from Doherty High School in 2019. I am a transgender woman. I'm 24. I would like to start off by thanking you all for seeing us and hearing us. I want to say this, and please don't take offense to it. D11 has failed transgender kids. They're failing the transgender community, okay? And by pushing this policy, you're going to closet transgender kids, and that makes the suicide increase way higher, way higher. And I don't think you people understand how serious this is. Okay, I attempted suicide when I was a child because I was in the closet. I don't think you people understand this though. Okay, and I really want you to hear everybody, because everybody has come here and they've told you people what's up, what's wrong, and what you need to do to fix it. And it seems like nobody is taking us seriously. Okay, as the last person said, the likelihood of suicide goes up. It goes up. It's not a joke. There are statistics. Okay, and the likelihood of a kid detransitioning is low. This bill, your policy requires that transgender kids get forcefully outed if they come out to you. Schools are supposed to be safe spaces for these children, okay? You should not be forcefully outing these kids to parents that will hit them, beat them, kick them out, or anything else. My dad was abusive when I was little. I didn't come out to him, and he disowned me for it. I disowned him too, okay? I don't think you people understand this though, and it's really hurting me personally. I want to cry because I know a lot of kids that are transgender. I do, and I've seen how this impacts them. I'm sorry, I'm getting really upset. You guys said before that you are concerned about lawsuits from parents that aren't told. I don't think you guys realize that the lawsuits are going to be civil rights lawsuits. The bill does not say that you must go and tell the kids' parents. It doesn't say that. When these kids get kicked out of their homes, I'm a paralegal. I've dealt with this. I've seen this. We had a kid that was kicked out of their home because they were transgender, and the state started abusing them for being transgender and taking stuff away from them and treating them poorly. And it's because they came out. You guys forcefully outing these kids is going to cause that. And that state, Colorado, got a lawsuit against it, a civil rights lawsuit. You guys are going to face the same situation, the same exact situation. You guys think that this is not a joke, but you guys think this is a joke, but it's not.
Thank you. Jackson Hoskinson.
Can you guess what I'm going to talk about? Hi, my name is Jackson. I'm the school advocate at Inside Out Youth Services. And over the past several months, I have come to speak at many a D11 school board meeting about policy ACA and how to implement a policy that is both in line with Colorado law and, more importantly, uplifts and empowers students to use names that represent them. I've come in good faith. I've offered my email. I've offered to speak with all of you, and those opportunities have been ignored. And it hasn't just been me. D11 students, current and former, parents, teachers, other Inside Out staff, students, ex-students, people who have just sent emails, people who used to go to D11 schools, people who live out of state now. I know that you have gotten communications that tell you that this policy is problematic, there are statistics behind it, and you have been advised to not implement the policy in the way it is written now. And ultimately, you have ignored opportunities to amend your policy that it will keep students safe. So it will keep students safe. You've shown that you're unwilling to make even minor policy changes to protect students, and your students and community hear that message loud and clear. What is that message? The majority of the members on this school board believe they can and should use their authority to intervene in private conversations that should take place at home. The majority of members on this board care more about making political statements than the safety of their students. The majority of members on this school board care more about letting parents control every aspect of their student lives, even if that is going to put them in unsafe situations. And despite numerous months of education around this issue, this board is planning to pass a policy that endangers students. I can't wrap my head around it. Somehow you do. This policy, as it is written, disappointingly passes the buck to Superintendent Gall to create district procedures around chosen names. So I'll speak to you. These school board members are letting down their students, and they have passed the responsibility to you, and I sincerely hope that you will take that responsibility more seriously than they have. I know you've been here for these same school board meetings. I know you have heard the same data, and I really hope that you will listen to it. To the only people who will listen tonight, D11 educators and students, please hear me when I say that using a student's chosen name and pronouns reduces the risk of suicide by around 50%. If you want to help your students, use their chosen names and pronouns. If you want to keep your students safe, use their chosen names and pronouns. If you want your classroom to be safe for all of your students, say it with me, everybody, use their chosen names and pronouns. Easy. If you want support making your classroom safer, Inside Out Youth Services and myself are here to help you with that. Your school board is not. To the transgender and gender expansive students of D11, I am sorry that your board does not have you in their hearts when they are writing policy. I am sorry that adults are failing you to be your beautiful, brilliant selves at school. No matter what hateful or harmful policy this board passes now or in the future, Inside Out Youth Services is here for you. We see you and we love you unconditionally as you deserve.
Thank you. Kaden Saladay.
Good evening, Board. My name is Caden Saladay. I'm here tonight to ask you to approve the ACA policy with parental consent included. And I'm going to be reading a statement on behalf of somebody who could not be here tonight, an anonymous D11 staff member. This is what they had to say. Hello. This is a story regarding a situation that I became aware of as a result of my line of work. The situation concerned a young student, and the way that the school treated them as a result of their appearance, despite the student's own protest, the student just had long hair. And as a result, people assumed that that student identified as the opposite gender. As a result of that, some people started trying to assert that the student should go to the restroom of their choice. When the student asked for an opinion, the student stated that they didn't want to use the opposite restroom. But some staff still did not take the word of that student seriously and continued to assert their imposing claims of gender dysphoria onto that student, causing issues for both the student and for their family. It is not the school's responsibility to guide a student on these political issues and values with identity without the parents' involvement. I would actually kind of agree with the statement that the last person made. They mentioned that these things are sort of resigned to the parental home, and I think that that's exactly it. The parents have a right to know. It is certainly not the role of D11 to assume that radical gender ideology is true and therefore bar the parents from knowing that their child is in crisis and out of obedience to a belief. Students like the one in this story that this anonymous staff member brought to our attention, these experiences demonstrate clearly why it is parents and not school administrators that should be having these conversations. Thank you for your respect and for your parental rights advocacy. I ask you to please vote yes. Thank you.
Abigail Bergman.
Good evening, Board. My name is Abigail Bergman, and I am a resident of D11. I want to begin by saying that the accusation that you want dead kids is emotional blackmail of the highest order. It should be dismissed as such. Last month, after you came out with your proposed ACA policy, the local affiliate of the NEA condemned your policy in the media because it included parental consent. It's a good reminder that no matter how many times you hear otherwise, D11's NEA is a far-left special interest group, far more than its labor organization. The fact that bringing parents into a situation where there are questions of identity, values, and culture would have any detractors is shocking. Most parents in District 11 do not hold to the belief that their child can change their gender. And they certainly do not hold to the belief that their child should be left to be talked to and guided through struggles of identity without them even being informed. HB 1039 was written by a representative who used to represent the same area that you do now. That representative vocally expressed her view that the nuclear family should be destroyed. That representative was voted out of office. As much as you can, fight against the terrible law. But, as you must comply, do so only with parental consent. Thank you.
Ollie Glessner.
Hello again. Thank you all once again for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Ollie Glessner. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the Communications and Advocacy Director of Inside Out Youth Services. Ollie is in fact my chosen name. I am here to reiterate what our organization has shared regarding your policy ACA and its requirement of parental consent. Last month and between these meetings, we have requested 2 small, minor changes that will strike the balance you are seeking between supporting your students and notifying their parents. We strongly encourage you to make these edits before voting on this policy this evening. First, You must edit the language of policy ACA to parental notification rather than parental consent. District policy does not override state law, and the law guarantees students the right to their chosen name without additional barriers. With parental notification, you can continue to keep parents informed of the changes to their child's name without violating the law. I want to be very clear that ideally your students would be able to make their own choices about their names and pronouns without parental involvement, unless that's what they wanted. But your policy ACA is not, and likely will not be, an ideal policy. Our goal now as a youth-serving organization is to hopefully reduce the amount of harm that it will cause, because it will cause harm. This edit, one small concession, will make a massive difference for your students. The second edit we recommend is enumerating within the policy that students must be informed before their parents are informed that they have requested a name change. We understand you believe this to be operational and therefore in Superintendent Gall's jurisdiction, but policies guide the operations set forth by district administration, and this is a key element to ensure your students' safety. By putting it in the policy, you ensure that related procedures will consistently and in perpetuity include and follow this important step. Students should be informed every time that if they request a name change, their parents will be contacted. This will give students with unaffirming home environments or dangerous home environments the opportunity to prepare for their forced outing or to retract the request for their own safety. I won't reiterate the statistics that prove forced outing is dangerous or the firsthand stories you yourselves have heard about the impact. But I will reiterate that your first priority is to your students, all of them, including those who are transgender and gender expansive. Your students have a right to their chosen name, and they have a need for affirmation, acceptance, and care. Allow them their rights. Provide for them that care. We remind all transgender and gender expansive students and their families that Inside Out Youth Services is here for you whenever you need us. Thank you.
Ms. Maria Bergman.
Good evening, Board. My name is Maria Bergman, and I'm a D11 resident. I'm here tonight to ask you to pass your proposed ACA policy. At last month's board meeting, you were accused of not standing up for kids and of lacking compassion. This because you included parental consent before a student changes his or her identity. Far from lacking compassion, a parental consent requirement is the most compassionate thing you can do in this situation. Parents are not the enemy here. When a student is struggling with gender dysphoria, it is the student's parents, not the district, and certainly not malicious nonprofits that should be involved. Across the country, parents are beginning to reject the radical and cruel ideology that anyone is born in the wrong body, and that the key to fulfillment for vulnerable children is life-altering and irreversible surgery. People are waking up to the obvious fact that lying to a child with mental health struggles is not compassion. Any parent who wishes the best for their children will guide them to find fulfillment and accept themselves for who they are. At minimum, these parents have every right to know when their child is struggling. No matter how many times you hear the message that this requirement hurts kids, understand that you may be saving kids from being targeted into a multi-billion-dollar world of destructive pseudoscience, false compassion, and pure evil. You instead are bringing that student back to the people in their lives who love them the most, their parents. Truth sets us free. Don't fall victim to the lies. Lying to parents and children who have a mental health disorder is never a form of compassion. Thank you.
Ms. Sharon Simpson-Dagan.
Good evening, Superintendent Gall, Dr. Mel Packham, and members of the board. Thank you again for the opportunity to address you. Fine lines exist when you communicate, and it requires people to pay closer attention than tech devices are training us to pay. School boards are supposed to be nonpartisan, transparent, and accountable. How nonpartisan is it when some of your actions, lauded by a very vocal minority, are entirely partisan? When you sit at the same loom as those who are destroying societal fabric thread by thread, systematically, and not making things better for the whole. Issues come to the board, some serious, some manufactured to reflect the dog whistles on the national stage, some innocuous. Regardless, what you're doing is supposed to reflect the constituents who are all within the D11 boundaries. Good boards govern from the overlap of ideas. Are you involving constituents beyond the optics of scheduled meetings? Are you listening? If it's true that you want to make the best decisions, how are you well informed when the preponderance of your input is from a vocal minority rather than from experts, students directly impacted by your actions, union and non-union employees, community members, in a good open study? Which of these statements are we to believe? We want to be the best district and set the bar for others to keep up with us. Or we're just doing what other districts in our area are doing. There's a way to have both and, but by following a partisan playbook, you're proceeding with a hard no to the best. Neither a handbook nor state law offer the legal protections that the vast majority of teachers in District 11 seek in a contract. Nobody wants to go simply through motions and waste time and energy to have something that isn't the best and has zero hope of being such because it's non-binding. You've heard many people tell you that there's a trust issue. They've also told you that they need what they need in order to trust you. Rather than your showing good faith to them and meeting them halfway with a both-and solution, you've thrown up your hands, thrown D11 Union under the bus. That's the D11 Union, which is CSEA, not NEA, claiming that you tried working with them, but you couldn't, and thrown the contract in the garbage, proclaiming that you have to eliminate a contract in order to get things done. Well, parents, grandparents, teachers on the dais, when you hear a kid say, "I tried," let them quit instead of encouraging them to try again for the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin Coughlin.
Good evening. 2 decades ago, the National Education Association, which seems to be a hot topic tonight, launched Read Across America, and now it's the nation's largest single-day celebration of reading. The program focuses on motivating children to read and encouraging adults to spend more time reading to children. The NEA's focus to celebrate a nation of diverse readers also promotes the message there is room in our country for all readers and provides opportunities to use books to help students discover their own voices and learn from the voices of others. This year, the NEA's book for March is Jam 2. A jam session breaks out on a beach, instrument by instrument. People join in and start playing. And then there's a fascinated child who loves all the music, but doesn't have a way to play music, but finds a way to join in by being a dancer. CSEA is donating a copy of this book to all the elementary schools in District 11. Read Across America Day is celebrated on March 2nd, which is Dr. Seuss's birthday. Across the country, thousands of schools, libraries, and community centers participate by bringing together kids, teens, and books, and you can do the same. Here's some interesting facts about Dr. Seuss. His German family name was actually pronounced Zeus, rhymes with voice, but Ted accepted the more phonetic pronunciation of Seuss, which rhymes with juice, for his author's name. He was not a doctor. He added the title of doctor before Seuss, which was his mother's maiden name, while in college to lend credibility to his writing and his characters, and in reaction to his father's wish that his son would get his doctorate. We know him as the magic behind The Cat in the Hat, Redfish, Bluefish, and 42 other beloved children's books. The first book that was written and illustrated by Ted Theodore Geisel was And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street. This book was rejected 27 times before being published in 1937. The Cat in the Hat was written as a result of a 1954 report published in Life magazine about illiteracy among school children. A textbook editor of the publishing company was concerned about the report and commissioned Ted to write a book which would appeal to children learning to read using only 250 words given to him by the editor, and you've probably all read it. Ted married twice but never had any children. When people commented about this, he used to say, "You have them, I'll entertain them." CSEA is also going to celebrate Read Across America by giving away free books and reading with kids in the community tomorrow evening at March 6th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at Hillside Community Center. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of public comments. Thank you for being here this evening and sharing your thoughts. The board appreciates your feedback. If you check the box asking a district administration to contact you, someone from administration will follow up and contact you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, it's board member reports. Board. Okay. Director Bankus, you're up first.
Yes, I am. And I want to thank all of you who do celebrate Read Across America. It's a wonderful time of year. And thank you to all the schools that have invited board members to come and read during that time period, because we all appreciate how important it is to be read to and to have children read back to us. As my children got older and they didn't want me to read and they didn't particularly want to read, we took out books on plays, and then we just divvied up all the characters in the plays, and then they got to change the sound of their voice. It gave them an idea of how to empathize with the characters that were being represented in that story. I also want to put a plug in for doing board games. We want to make sure that our kids are not only literate, but we want to make sure that they're literate in reading as well as in math. And board games give you that opportunity in order to move 10 spaces up and 3 back. You have to decide how much money you're going to spend to buy whatever is available if you're playing Monopoly, or if you've got to pay rent in the game of life. These are fun activities that build memories that kids will remember over time, and you're never too old to sit down on the floor, if you can get back up, on the floor and play these games with kids. So I appreciate Read Across America, and Kevin, I don't remember the year you said it started, but I'm glad it's been around for this long. And again, if you are a teacher that's listening, make sure that you take the opportunity to invite us to be able to participate. I also want to mention that the last listening tour is tomorrow night at Doherty. Director Mel Packham and I will be the facilitators for that meeting, and our purpose of that meeting is we want to hear from the community what you see that's positive and progressing in District 11. We also want to know how it is that we can together make District 11 even better. It's an important opportunity for you, in addition to the emails that you send, and thank you for sending those emails in. Everyone gets a response, and those people who have asked for a meeting get a meeting, at least as far as I know. This is a board that's very willing to meet you, talk with you, and share with you the vision that we have. As I've come to know my fellow directors and our superintendent, all of us come here to do this job with the best intentions in our hearts. Yes, it is about children. Yes, it is about keeping them safe. Yes, it is making sure that there are resources that we can make available to them so that they, with their families, can grow into well-rounded adults who contribute to the city in which we live. And again, I'll go back to Mr. Gall's earlier comment, and that was graduation is not what they have done, but what they are going to do. I think that's a powerful message that we can send to our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bankus. Excellent. You came prepared for the evening, and I appreciate you sharing about the last listening session tomorrow at Doherty as well. Director Hafley.
You stole my thunder a little bit there. I have on my own notes here that I had wanted to thank everybody who's come out to the listening sessions, the tours that we've been holding recently, and it's good to see the amount of people that are there. And as you, Director Bankus, had mentioned, Thunder Stealer, there's one more left tomorrow evening at Doherty from 5:30 to 6:45. Read Across America. I was at Wilson last week, and I found out that kids at Wilson don't really want to eat green eggs and ham until, that is, they get to the end of the book, when they think maybe trying something new isn't so bad after all. Also learned that many of them had pets, to include their little brothers, and a few of them had what they consider to be zoos in their homes, between dogs and cats and birds and snakes and lizards and turtles and little brothers. So that was a lot of fun, and I want to thank the folks at Wilson for inviting me out and giving me the opportunity to read about green eggs and ham. I'd also like to thank the numerous teachers who have welcomed me into their classrooms recently. It's pretty great seeing y'all in action with your kids, your students. And in particular, I want to put one person on blast, and that's Sherry Podu at Twain Elementary School, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is an exceptional teacher. She's phenomenal, and she has such a great rapport with her students. It's not just about her teaching what I saw, her math lesson. It was the rapport that she had with fourth graders, which was really cool. It's also my understanding that Columbia Elementary School is holding performances of Beauty and the Beast at Palmer High School this Friday and Saturday evening. And also good luck to the Doherty girls basketball team. They are playing right now as they make their mark in the state tourney this evening. I believe they're playing Valor Christian, and that's the reigning state champ in girls basketball for 6A. And at the end of the first quarter, they were down by 7, but that's nothing for this Doherty team. So good luck, girls. When I was coaching, we always talked about surviving and advancing. So survive and advance. And I hope they do well. That is the extent of my board report. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can give us periodic updates as the evening goes along. Hopefully the Doherty students will be successful and win the game. Director Ott.
Thank you. More on where you can catch some entertainment. Coronado High School. Well, first I'm going to reflect, Palmer mentioned April 10th, 11th, 12th for the choir concert. No, it was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown was the play or musical that they were talking about. But also coming up, Coronado has choir and orchestra next week. And also, if you want to have a flashback to your own high school reading, Lord of the Flies is at Mitchell High School next week, the 12th through the 14th. So I'm still debating. That one brings back some memories, but I think I'm going to go see it. And just for fellow board members to know, the CASB, the Colorado Association of School Boards Winter Legislative Conference was last week. I went, had a chance to meet with Amy Atwood and mentioned to some legislators that we would appreciate full funding for public education in District 11. And also there were some sessions that we attended. One of my takeaways was on student safety on buses, and I'll probably send you all a note on that just for your awareness. So that's it for me. Thanks.
You have something?
I
Go ahead, Director.
I totally forgot. So at halftime, the girls are down by 4, but they're coming back, so that's good. But you had brought up Coronado, and you and I were at the robotics scrimmage last Saturday. Was it last Saturday? And this is a phenomenal opportunity. I'm not an engineering mind that's not what drives me, but watching these kids build these robots, and this robot had to pick up a cylinder and put this cylinder on a post, and after they put it on the post, then the robot had to pick up a giant ball and then shoot it into a big net. And that was amazing to me, that they could do that. And there were kids there that graduated from Coronado, went off to college. They had met in the robotics program at Coronado, went off to college, and then they got married. And now they're back at Coronado mentoring these new high school kids. So even if you're building a robot that can shoot a basket and put a cylinder on top of a pole, you can also find your spouse, your future spouse. But these kids, they use every single discipline. It's not just, I mean, talk about Lord of the Flies. I mean, they're learning how to create a society, a government, if you will, how they have to get along with each other and what everybody's going to do and what job they specifically have and how that overlaps with other jobs. And they use their English skills in order to be able to write grants so that they can fund their robotics program, and the list goes on and on. So if you haven't had an opportunity to see the robotics kids, I'm telling you, that it's something else. I mean, the things that District 11 has for kids is just amazing. So, and that had skipped my mind until you mentioned Coronado. So my apologies, Coronado. I realize that I am a cougar, and that I should not have forgotten that. So my apologies for that.
Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Ott, you have something to add as well?
I do. I have to follow up on that now. So if anybody is curious, that team is on their way, if not already there, to Missouri. And so if people do want to see the robot in action, they should look for Team 2996. And I would say do a web search on First Robotics and Blue Alliance, I think is what they're playing out there in Missouri. And I'm not sure how many events there are in Missouri, but I think it's just the one championship going on right now. And then they'll be at the Denver Regionals in a couple of weeks. So keep an eye on them. We're cheering them on.
Well. We have all three board directors having second turn. Director Backus.
I want to also give a shout out to our orchestras from both Jenkins and from Doherty. Their concert was last week. They performed for us before they went up to competition. I have not heard back. I hope they did really well because the performance that I attended was outstanding. So from robotics to orchestra, we've got a lot of things covered.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to give a shout out to the Doherty DECA students who competed at the state competition at the Broadmoor a week or so back. This was the first time I attended that event, and just walking into that auditorium, and there were at least that auditorium was packed. All the partitions that usually are in the Broadmoor, all of those were removed. And seeing these students go up to the stage and accept some of the awards, and also having the courage and standing in front of such a huge audience. Probably there were 2,000 students out there. So I want to give a shout out to all the Doherty students who competed in that event, and to Mr. Bruce Cole and Ms. Newmeyer, and if I forget any other teachers' names that were instrumental in getting the students prepared, I'm sorry about that, but phenomenal performance by the students. Thank you. And Coronado students, I've been at that robotic competitions in the past, and these students, there are students that not only participate in the technical aspect of the program, but the marketing, the finance side. It's all student-driven, so just a great program out there. I do want to share with the community update. The board has received several emails from the community about a letter that was put out by the Office of Civil Rights on February 14th, and this comes from the federal level, and this letter talks about non-discrimination policies and compliance with federal guidelines that are being provided. And the letter went on to provide a deadline of February 28th to comply with the Office of Civil Rights policies, and failing which the district or all the school districts and higher educational institution could potentially lose federal funding. We have, as a school district, been consulting with our legal counsel, and we are following the legal counsel guidance in this matter, and just want to let the community know that we are following through with the letter to ensure that we are in compliance. Legal counsel indicated to us if the district demonstrates good faith effort to begin implementing the directive in that letter before February 28th, that would be enough to show district's willingness to comply with that letter. And I informed the board accordingly on February 25th that we will start the process in the March 12th, which is next week, the board retreat. The board will have a discussion about ensuring compliance with the policy. We will have a discussion with the superintendent and listen to his feedback and guidelines and figure out what the next steps are. Just want to keep the community informed of what is happening in that regard. And you will also be informed about future decisions that the board may make in this regard. That's all I have for my board member report. Thank you. Moving on to the consent items, Director Hafley, can you please make the motion to adopt the consent item? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Ms. Amy Atwood, we have legislative update. Our legislative lobbyist, Ms. Amy Atwood, has been waiting patiently. I apologize for skipping over you. I didn't mean to do that. And I know that you are busy. Looks like you are in the Capitol and having a busy day out there. And I'm sure you guys are in the middle of all the bills that are being presented and the discussions that are taking place regarding that. Thank you for joining us. I know that you sent an update to us late last night, and I forwarded that to the board. Please provide us with the latest update, and then I will open the board up for questions as well. Thank you, Ms. Atwood.
Great, thank you. Amy Atwood, contract lobbyist for the district. And you're right, I think my background almost looks like it's a picture. I'm up outside, I'm on the first floor outside of the governor's office because it's a quiet place here. So last night you did, or this morning you received a report, and I just want to highlight some things within that. And the first is that the budget situation doesn't seem to be getting any better. There are many pressures on the budget, not just from K-12, but also from higher education, Medicaid, community provider rates, and state employee compensation. And so there's just a lot of pressure on the budget, and the budget shortfall right now is about $1 billion to $1.3 billion. So every state program is going to get cut this year. The Joint Budget Committee continues to make commitments that they don't want to or plan to cut education, but there is really no way that K-12 education can't be cut when you're over $1 billion down. But they are looking in every single place to cut from. Medicaid and K-12 are the two of the state's budget's most significant portions. So while nobody wants to cut healthcare, Medicaid, or K-12, it'll be impossible not to do that. We also don't know on the federal side what to expect. So pending federal actions could further exacerbate the budget situation, particularly with regard to Medicaid. We just don't know. Same with K-12. We're hearing things about the Department of Education, but nothing has come down on that either. So there is a lot of anxiety around those two problems coming from the federal government. And The other thing, the last thing I want to highlight is that this is not just a one-year budget problem. The state has a structural deficit, meaning that expenditures greatly exceed revenue. So we will likely face these similar dynamics in the 26 budget, the 27 budget, and possibly the 28 budget. So we are definitely looking out to a 2 to 3 year budget crunch where programs will continue to be cut. So I want to open it up for questions specifically on the budget.
Okay, thank you. Board, any questions specifically on the budget? For the community that's watching the forecast, as you heard from Ms. Atwood, it's bleak, but the board, the assurance from the board is that we are going to, as best as possible, still support our teachers. Last year, we committed to investing in instruction and moving our dollars as close to students as possible in the classrooms, and that commitment still continues. It may require tightening our belt a little bit more at the central administrative level, but that's up to Superintendent Gall and Dr. Comfort to provide some options to the board in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I would ask Dr. Comfort, because we did it in a work session, but since this is a board meeting, to kind of summarize, although the forecast at the state level is bleak, how we have run those numbers and how we think we are better positioned than most districts for that shortfall that Ms. Atwood has addressed. Dr. Comfort?
Yeah, good evening, board. As Ms. Atwood said, the budget forecast is not great. We do feel like we are well positioned. A reason that we feel like we are better positioned than we would be is because we are out of averaging. There's lots of models that the state is running right now, from implementing the new finance formula in a variety of ways and then going to 4-year averaging, 2-year averaging, 3-year averaging, all the way to no averaging. Basically, if the state goes from allowing averaging to no averaging, that's a $180 million cut to K-12 education across the state. If we were still in averaging and we wouldn't have made those adjustments last year, it would be about a $4 million reduction for us. And so we're better positioned for that. Obviously, it doesn't appear that we're going to get a lot of new money. We have been preparing for that and are ready to make the decisions and adjustments that we need to ensure that we are still realizing the board priorities of focused compensation and supporting our teachers in schools.
Thank you. I don't see any, Director Nelson.
I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. It was mentioned at that work session regarding the foresight to shift our district towards more of that portfolio of bringing in charters, and that's what has helped us to come out of our averaging, and that we were guided largely by Glenn Gustafson, who was supporting us at that time as we were in between our chief finance officer positions. And so just wanted to thank him publicly for the support and the models that he built out. I went back on board docs and was looking at those back in the fall of 2022, and just how we were able to sort of anticipate what would the impact to the district finances be at that time, but that in the long term it would potentially make sense because there had been talk of coming out of declining enrollment averaging for many years at the legislative level. So just thank you, Glenn, for your support in and when you were serving in that capacity at that time. And then Dr. Comfort, could you speak a little bit to the impact on Title I you mentioned at the budget committee meeting last night? I know there's some question out there, so it would be good for the public to hear.
Sure, there are lots of questions about a variety of federal funds to include grants, Title I being our largest. We did receive communication yesterday from CDE that we do not expect, there's not an expectation that Title I will be significantly reduced. We might see some level of cut, but we do envision that we'll be able to continue with our Title I program at this point in time.
Thanks. And for those that are listening, that is our free and reduced lunch population is higher in District 11 than surrounding districts, so we see more of that funding through that source. So good to hear that won't be impacted. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Bankus.
Okay.
Hang on a minute.
Amy, I have a question for you. Talking about Title I brings up federal funds for special education. Do you see conversation happening at the state level on the funding for special education?
So special education, I think, will be protected. It is considered a categorical, so it's treated differently than some other aspects of the school finance formula, but that is definitely one that is typically in down years protected. And so is the READ Act is another one. Those two typically are protected.
And I thank you for that, and I thank you for the question you asked about Title I, because that creates a lot of uncertainty. We have services that we want to make sure that we provide in a free and accessible education, and knowing that the funds are in a different category certainly helps alleviate some of the fears of what might come down. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bankus. And back to you, Ms. Atwood. Keep us informed about what's transpiring regarding the budget out there as the long bill is introduced at some point in time. Does that happen in April?
So the next major step to happen in the budget process is March 17th, we will have a revenue forecast. And from that revenue forecast, those are the numbers that they use to finalize the budget. So that's March 17th. We typically see the budget the last week of March and the first week of April. It takes 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks, to run through the process. There is a scenario where the budget actually doesn't get introduced until the 1st of April because there's just so much that has to be done with it this year. But if we keep in mind, it has to be finished March 8th, 7th, 8th, when session finishes. So as you're building your budgets this spring, every day we get closer to March 17th, and then to May 8th, we just know more and more every day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we now have, I sent a list of bills that will have an impact on the district should they pass. There are other education bills that are out there as well, but the impact is significantly less, or they actually just won't impact the district. So looking at this list, I wanted to open it up if anyone had questions on the front end about any of these bills.
Okay, board members, you had an opportunity to look at the bills that have been introduced. Director Bankus.
Do you have a feeling about whether or not the cell phone policy in schools is going to be passed through the state legislature?
Yes, and that is House Bill 1135, Communication Devices in Schools. Mm-hmm. And yes, we do believe that will pass. It is a compromise bill that it says the district must have a policy, but must not prohibit students from possessing or using a cell phone if it's necessary for compliance with disability standards, special education programs, or monitor a medical condition. So it doesn't tell you exactly what you have to have in it, but we do believe that this bill will pass.
And I just want to point out, we've already done that. Yay, District 11.
Yeah, and I know that other school districts have approached administration and even some board members to get some feedback on what our cell phone policy looks like. So it's been good that we've been proactive, and the first school district in El Paso County to implement a cell phone policy. Go ahead, Ms. Atwood. Any other questions about specific bills? Board. Director Jurgensen.
Ms. Atwood, can I put a couple other bills on your radar?
Sure, let me just get my notebook. Okay, go ahead.
They're both House bills, and it's 1251 and 1253. And 1251 has to do with parental consent to treat a minor, so protecting minors from treatments that the parents wouldn't agree with or that they would have consent to. And then 1253 is the Youth Health Protection Act along the similar lines. If you could give us
Okay.
updates on those. They've both been introduced.
They have both been introduced.
Yes.
And typically are not in the education, what we would consider an education bill, so I'll need to go back and research those two bills.
Okay, thank you.
Just periodic updates on those bills. Anything else from the board at this time? I don't see anything else from the board, Ms. Atwood. Is there anything that you want to summarize your takeaway from the last couple of weeks from the legislature?
Sure. I think that we've had just under 500 bills introduced. In past years, we've had around 750 bills. So we don't believe we'll get to 750 because there isn't enough money for a lot of bills. But the pace is very fast right now. So bills are moving through, but they're also getting hung up in Appropriations Committee. So you'll see bills on the list that will sit in appropriations until the end of April, because until the budget passes, the legislature doesn't know how much money is available for bills. So as you see the list and the list evolve over time, that's why it looks like bills are being parked in appropriations, and they really are being parked in appropriations. I wanted to bring to your attention one more bill that's on the list. It's 1278. It's the Education Accountability System Bill. This is the bill that came from the task force that met for the last 2 years. And there are 30 recommendations in this bill. It's a very expensive bill. So it will not pass in its current form, but there are negotiations on what could pass. D11 staff has reviewed the bill and provided feedback. So I just wanted to continue to keep you updated with that one, because we've tracked that bill and that committee all along the last 9 months.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Seeing no other questions from the board, thank you for stopping in and providing us an update, and keep us a couple of weeks from now. We will see you again possibly, and then in the meantime, if anything is of an urgent nature, to reach us and Superintendent Gall as well, to keep us updated on what's transpiring out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, moving on to consent items. Director Hafley, can you please make the motion to adopt the consent items?
Sure, thank you. I move that the Board of Education adopts all consent items as designated in the agenda. The consent items are D2, approval of February 5th, 2025 regular meeting. D3, approval of February 12th, 2025 special meeting minutes. 4, approval of February 19th, 2025 special meeting minutes. D5, personnel recommendations, March 5th, 2025. D6, resolution 2025-19, visual and performing arts in schools month. D7, resolution 2025-20, read across America. D8, resolution 2025-21, women's history month. D9, policy and regulation, LBD, relations with district charter school. D10, 2025 legislative agenda, and D11, approval of district-wide closure and district-wide 2-hour delays due to inclement weather.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That's a long list, so
Yes,
thank
it
you for
is.
reading that. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The consent items have been adopted as presented to the board. Moving on to the action item on the agenda, it is policy ACA, name change. Director Jurgensen, can you please make the motion for action item E1?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education adopts policy ACA, name changes.
Second.
Moved and seconded, the board has discussed and worked through many considerations regarding policy ACA on a number of occasions this school year and has consulted with the district legal counsel as well. This item came to the board as non-action item during the February 5th, 2025 regular board meeting. Dr. X and Superintendent Gall, do you have anything to add? Okay, Dr. X, do you have any additional information for the board to consider at this time?
I do not at this time.
Okay. All the changes that the board discussed has, from the February 5th meeting, has been incorporated out there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Board comments or any discussion on this topic before roll call? Director Hafley, no, Director Bankus first. Sorry.
I know we've heard a lot of discussion on this particular policy that we are going to vote on tonight. I want you to know, whichever side of this issue that you stand on, I think I can reliably speak for my fellow directors at this dais that we have carefully considered and weighed the implications. You may not agree with the decisions that's made tonight, but I want you to know that for me personally, I have listened to all of the comments. I have done my own research. I have gone out into the community to make sure that what I needed to know, I could find out. I did reach out to the organization that was here, but was not able to make connection. Nobody answered the phone. That makes it difficult. That does not, none of these things are a deciding factor. All of them play a part in the decision-making, all of it. And as I've worked in education and that I've worked with kids and seen them grow up, and one of the wonderful things about being a teacher in this district, in this city, is that your kids grow up and they come back and they're doing fine. Doing fine in the sense that they've got jobs. They're taking care of themselves. They remember their 5th grade teacher and they're adults. I think that's a real compliment. Are we always right? No. Parents don't have a parent handbook. Teachers get guidance through their professional development, through their training and their courses. This board takes input from all of the teachers, the principals, the parents, community members, and we serve the whole community. Now, how we serve it is up to all of you with your input. We may agree, we may not agree, but the whole thing that boils down to is what is it that we want to do for our kids? And for me personally, I want to give them structure. And in my opinion, the structure comes with making sure that school, sports, church, if they go, community members, friends down the street, and parents are all interconnected. And so when it comes to this vote, I would be voting yes, because I cannot, in good conscience, separate kids from their parents. Do parents, as we've listened to some heartfelt comments that have been made repeatedly over the weeks that this has been under discussion, are parents always right? No. Are we always right? No. And neither is anyone sitting in this audience or anyone on the video stream. What we do, hopefully, is do the best that we can possibly do and be open to having conversations. And if we all hold together to the belief that we want to raise self-assured, confident kids into adults, then that's our goal. And the tension comes from how to reach that goal. So let's continue to talk. Let's continue to make sure that we are opening doors, not closing them, and making sure that we have opportunities for kids to grow into the people that they want to be. Thank you.
Director Art.
I believe Director Hafley was next. No? Oh, I guess she altered the order. So I was curious if there was any interest, given again what we heard tonight, and given the data that has been presented to us over and over in emails, if there is any interest from the board in changing the word consent to notification.
Board Director Art is proposing possibly considering a revision of the board policy that's currently stating parental consent to parental notification. By show of thumbs, is there any interest in changing to parental notification and not parental consent? I don't see any thumbs up.
All right, thank you. Then I do have a little bit more to say. I want to recognize, we've noted before that it takes some bravery to step up and speak here at the dais, but especially I want to recognize Devin and Taylor and say thank you for speaking out for those who may not have felt comfortable coming because they are still living a life that they don't, or a personage that they don't identify with, because they have not been accepted in their family, and they don't feel comfortable coming out. We live in certainly a culture and a political situation right now where it has got to be incredibly uncomfortable, at least I would think so, being recognized for just who you are. And I'm going to note that our community has spoken against the policy, as is. We have received many, many emails, over 50 emails, and we haven't had that many emails in a long time on one subject. And people are trying to tell us that they do not like this policy as is with parental consent, and some have the parental notification concern as well. We've heard from students, parents, former students, teachers, and again, many, many community members. And I appreciate that you've all taken the time to email us or speak to us. While we all agree, I think that parents have rights, I believe that as individuals, children also have rights, and they should be respected. Their dignity is at issue here for me. Children should be acknowledged. They should have a safe and affirming environment in our schools, and we want them to learn about themselves. That's part of what we're doing here with education and social emotional learning. And I know some people are going to say, oh, social emotional learning, it's terrible. No, it's not. It's being able to speak up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and get along with people, and recognizing that we do have differences. And we want that in our society, I believe, and we want that for our children. So if a student comes to a staff person and requests that, or just tells us that they want to go by a different name, that is allowed by law, that is now required by law. We don't require parental consent for nicknames. We're not going to start, I'm guessing. So a name that reflects a child's identity, again, is allowed by law, should be allowed without consent. The policy, as it's written, sets up a barrier. If a parent says no, the child still technically has the right to be called by the name they want to be called. So it really sets up a problem for us as a district, for our teachers, and for the child. So I believe, again, since we're allowing informal name changes and name changes for like Alexander to be Alex, as one example, that this policy as it's written is discriminatory. And I'm concerned about the legalities there. I also have to say, differences in how we identify and how transgender people identify is not radical, nor is it evil. Let's be clear about that. It used to be that being left-handed was evil, and the majority of the world's population is right-handed. So the minority was seen as being in the wrong. Let's recognize that. Now we know better, and being left-handed, being deviant, mentally ill, evil, that is all seen as rather silly in retrospect. So we learn, we evolve, being transgender, non-binary, cisgender, it's easy being in the minority, but it doesn't make it wrong or evil to be, sorry, it's easy to be in the majority, but it doesn't make it wrong or evil to be in the minority. So I think we all have to be a little more accepting of that. And again, in this culture and in this political climate, we should be allies to our transgender children and those who are also non-binary. That is, if we want our students to be in welcoming and inclusive schools. And that has always been one of my goals and why I'm here. And this policy does not promote welcoming, inclusive, safe, or affirming schools. And so I will be voting no, because I am not going to contribute to the oppression of our transgender children, and I want them to feel supported and loved, and this policy isn't it. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Ott. Just so the community is aware, and I'm coming to you, Director Hafley, next. I see you want to speak. Just so the community is aware, this policy is specifically in response to a House bill that was adopted at the state level, House Bill 1039, which requires school districts to adopt a policy. And this is not about nicknames, students, Robert being called Bob, Alexander being called Alex. This is specifically name changes related to the gender identity of the students. And I am really appreciative of all the students who had the courage to come and speak up there, just as Director Ott mentioned. But the board also adopted a policy last year, which is parent partnership policy. And policy AKB considers parents as part of partners in this educational journey of our children. There was a comment made that student enrollment may suffer because of that. What I'm worried about is losing the trust of the parents. And as far as I know, every D11 student who gets enrolled in District 11 schools don't do it on their own. They come with their parents to get enrolled in District 11 schools. And at that time, we have an agreement with policy AKB that we as a school district will partner with parents and not keep secrets from parents about the education and the care the school district provides for their child. And that's essentially the crux of this discussion that is happening. Should parents be informed about these matters when most of the time students spend majority of their time at home? And you just heard from our legislative lobbyist how woefully underfunded public education is. We are underfunded to do our primary responsibility and obligation, which is reading, writing, and teaching science and the basics to our kids. We can't solve all of the other challenges that come across our table. That's where we need to partner with our parents to be partners in this journey. Director Hafley.
Okay, so at our February board meeting, I shared that during my time in the classroom, I often called kids by nicknames, sometimes ones they chose and sometimes one I made up. In fact, many students eagerly asked me to create a nickname for them. They would say, "Can you give me a new middle name?" Some of those examples are Luigi, Gaston, Maple. One student even wanted me to call him A-Train, and I believe that I mentioned that back in February. This helped me foster a positive rapport with my students. So to be clear, if a student wants to be called Applesauce, I'll call him Applesauce. I'll call her Applesauce. But this policy isn't about nicknames, as you mentioned, or calling Alexander by Alex, with all due respect. Personally, when I ran for a position on the school board, at the final tally, over 27,000 people voted for me, fully aware of my stance on key issues. And I have a responsibility to uphold the values I was elected to represent. Withholding a name change from parents is something I cannot support. I cannot get between parents and their children. For this reason, I am voting yes on policy ACA. However, I'd like to know if there's any interest in this. I do think that students can and should be given the courtesy of letting them know first. Having been in the schools, that's a line that if we're going to tell parents about their kids, and I believe that that's the responsibility of what's happening with telling parents about their own children, not my children, their children. It would behoove kids, though, to be looked out for by giving them the courtesy of letting them know first. I would be 100% in support of that. And so I'm asking if anybody else is.
I think the board discussed this at the last board meeting, and the feedback that was provided by the board to Superintendent Gall was that this is an operational matter about if a student wants to come and identify themselves by a different name based on their gender identity. The feedback that was provided to Superintendent Gall was that administration let them know that parents are going to be contacted. And if the student expresses any change in their decision based on that, we respect that students will. It was the way the board has gone about writing policy is pushing it to the higher 30,000 feet level and leave the operational feedback to the superintendent. So if the board is comfortable with that, or if the board wants to put specific language in the policy itself, based on what Director Hafley is saying or what some of the public comments that happened, is the board comfortable with leaving the policy as is? Because that's where it is right now. The board leaving the policy as is without, and leaving that as an operational guidance to the superintendent. Is that okay? Thumbs up. So what I'm asking is no revision to the policy stays as is, but the feedback to Superintendent Gall is that take that into consideration. Are we good with that? Okay. Okay, that's where the majority of it. Director Hafley, are you done? Do you have anything more?
No, I'm finished, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are you comfortable with, the board recognizes the importance of keeping students informed about this process? Superintendent Gall, that is the director.
That's fine, thank you.
I would prefer a commitment from.
Like if the board directs Superintendent Gall in that aspect.
Yes.
Yeah, which is what we are saying, that when he develops the regulation or the standard operating procedures for our schools and our staff, that is clearly communicated to the staff, that staff have to inform students that parents are going to be contacted.
Dr. X and I will work on that, and we'll bring it back to the board. Work session, not this one, but the next one. Give us a week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Bankus.
Yes, I just want to comment on that. I thought that when we discussed this earlier, that students would be apprised of the fact that this conversation would be shared with parents. It's only respectful. So I'm glad that we're making it very clear that that's going to happen, because that it needs to happen. It needs to put things out so that folks can make reasonable decisions with the information that they have. And students can make that decision if they know that they are going to be part of a conversation that includes their parents. So I'm glad we're very specific on this.
Director Nelson.
I think you just stated it, Mr. Gall, but didn't quite hear. I was going to ask if, once you have that SOP ready, if you could email it to the board for us.
Yeah, we'll actually bring it to not the next, we have a retreat next week. The next work session, we'll bring that
Okay.
for the board's review.
Great, thank you.
Director Jurgensen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just to speak to Director Ott's points, and these were emails that we got that said, well, this is discriminatory. And I just needed to remind folks, and I reminded people in the email, that policy ACA is written exclusively to comply with a House bill that's forcing our hand to make a policy. So when you're accusing of oppressing children or discriminating against children, specifically because of the gender identity piece, to reflect the student's gender identity as the bill states, it's not discriminatory and enforce this policy solely for trans or gender nonconforming students, because that's what this bill was written to tell us to do. So if we didn't have the bill, we wouldn't be even having this discussion, because we already have policy on legal name change and on nicknames. So the bill is forcing the hand of this, which makes it pinpointed for this topic and thus not discriminatory or oppressive.
Dr. Hafley, you are done, right? Okay.
No.
Yeah, thank you. Seeing no further public comments, roll call, please. Board comments, I mean.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott? No.
So the policy ACA as presented to the board has been adopted. Moving on to the non-action item that is on the agenda, we have Doherty High School Science Wing naming. This is new information, Superintendent Gall.
Yeah, Chief Ottmer, Area Superintendent Joyner, and our two staff members from Doherty, please come forward. You're on.
We are in front of you this evening because of a proposal to rename the current Doherty Science Wing after Steve Giuliotti, a beloved D11 science teacher for 31 years. Mr. Giuliotti left an incredible mark on Mitchell and Doherty High School students. He was a master teacher of AP Biology and AP Anatomy. He inspired countless students to pursue science careers as well. His passion for hands-on learning was exemplified by his creation of the Field Studies program, providing transformative outdoor educational experiences. And his dedication extended beyond the classroom, continuing to mentor students after retirement. You will soon hear more about Mr. Giuliotti from those who knew him best, but before we get to that, I want to turn it over to Nicole Ottmer to talk about the process for renaming the science wing up to this point.
Good evening, board. As you're aware, there's a board policy. Can you click off the timer so it'll let the clicker work? That's okay. It's policy FF. We did follow all of the protocols within the policy to bring this forward tonight. So the way that works is a naming proposal comes forward. Mr. Badeau, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, and Mr. Galvan will speak to that in just a moment. Then we convene a district committee that's got specific membership between school, community, and district membership. And then the documents evaluate names. If you were able to click into these links on slide 3 and slide 4, you will see a very comprehensive support for this science wing proposal. I will let the two teachers from Doherty go into more details on why this is a good idea to name the wing after Steve Giuliotti. Here's the proposed name. Right now, it's just kind of referred to as the Doherty High School Science Wing, and we just want to update that to the Steve Giuliotti Science Wing. We had 2 meetings. You can see the list of members here meeting the criteria in policy FF. One of those was at 2 p.m. on the 24th. The community meeting was not heavily attended, but you can see the feedback from both meetings here. The only piece that came up was one community member did raise a concern on that call that there is an inherent risk associated with naming anything after a person because people are human. But there were no other pieces that came forward of anyone having any concerns specific to Mr. Giuliotti. It was just a general concern. With that, I will turn it over to the teachers.
How's it going? I'm Josh Galvan, teacher at Doherty High School. We're here to talk today. I'm going to read something and then we'll kind of give you a little bit of background on who Steve Gigliotti was and hopefully move forward with this proposal. So I just wrote down, we were gathered here today to discuss an opportunity to honor a man whose impact on Doherty High School, its students, and its educators is immeasurable. To honor a man who shaped not only the minds of his students, but the very heart of Doherty High School's science education. A man who spent 31 years inspiring futures and igniting a passion for science in all who had the privilege of learning from him. That man is Steve Gigliotti, and it is only fitting that we name the Doherty Science Wing in his honor. For 31 years, including 29 at Doherty, Mr. Gigliotti dedicated himself to teaching biology, anatomy, astronomy, and geology in District 11. But he did far more than teach facts and formulas. He sparked curiosity, encouraged discovery, and set a high standard for learning. His creativity in the classroom made science come alive, transforming complex subjects into exciting challenges that inspired students to think critically and explore the world around them. Yet his impact extended beyond the walls of Doherty. In 1990, Mr. Gigliotti founded the Doherty Science Field Studies program, a hands-on, immersive learning experience that became an extension of his classroom. Through this program, students didn't just read about science, they lived it. They ventured into the field, explored nature, and saw firsthand how science connects to the world around them. More than 30 years later, that program continues to shape young minds, a testament to the lasting power of his vision. But the greatest measure of an educator is the lives they touch. There are over 200 letters that we attach to our proposal from former students dating back from 1988 all the way to current students at Doherty High School now that had the opportunity to go on field studies with Mr. Gigliotti as late as in 2023. Who speak of the lifelong impact Mr. Gigliotti had on them. Students who pursued careers in science because of his guidance, students who learned to love learning because of his passion. He didn't just prepare students for tests, he prepared them for life. And it wasn't just students who benefited from his presence. His colleagues saw him as a leader, a mentor, a source of inspiration. He challenged them to be better educators, to reach higher, and to never lose sight of why they chose to teach in the first place. For all these reasons, for his dedication, his innovation, his passion, and his profound influence on generations of students and teachers, we have the opportunity to cement his legacy in the very place where he made his mark. By naming the Science Wing after Steve Gigliotti, we ensure that the contributions are never forgotten, that his name stands as a symbol of excellence, and that future students walk these halls knowing they are part of something greater, a tradition of learning, exploration, and inspiration. Let's honor a true educator, a mentor, and a visionary. Let's name the Science Wing after Steve Gigliotti. So we brought this proposal forward with the help of Darren and Julie, myself and Mr. Badeau did, because just as you heard, the immense impact that Steve Gigliotti had on our Doherty community. We tried to make sure, or we did follow all protocol as established in the board revisions and notes and everything. And we just know the impact that Steve had on so many people. So I hope you consider this as you make your decision on this proposal, and we'll respect obviously whatever decision you make. I'll turn it over to Taylor and he'll speak next.
All right, good evening. My name is Taylor Bedell. I'm a teacher at Doherty High School. I've been going on field studies since 2020. When I was thinking about what to say to y'all tonight, I had a hard time thinking about what to say. It's hard to encapsulate 30 years of public service, you know, those of us that do it day in and out, you know, in the classroom or outside. But man, 30 years in the classroom is a hard thing to encapsulate into, what do I got, 13 minutes and 15 seconds, and I won't take that long, I promise. But I'd like to just share with you just a short story about Steve's mentorship to me specifically, and I'll kind of tie it all in at the end. But the very first trip I ever went on was a 84-mile river trip down Desolation Canyon. We take 20 students down the Green River. It's a beautiful trip. You get done with school, you put your finals in the grade book, you go out of cell service, you don't even get the angry email from the kid who thinks that their D should be a C. It's really beautiful, honestly. But on that first trip, I'd never rowed a boat before, and on that first trip, Steve let me row his boat, and I was pretty new. I don't know if any of you guys have ever rowed a boat before, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. You got to figure out ferry angles and all sorts of stuff and recognize dangerous hydraulics, and that can be kind of tricky. As such, by the way, I would like to note that I was considered the trash boat on my first trip. I had 0 students on my boat, which was wise, because I was the rookie. But what I think really encapsulates who Steve Giuliotti was is on that trip, again, he didn't know me, he'd never met me before, he handed me his boat, took me under his wing, and at night, he'd call me over to his chair, and he'd draw in the sand, like the river, and then we'd use rocks and more rocks and twigs and anything else we had on hand, and we'd draw out little hydraulics, and we'd pretend like the rock was the boat, and he'd talk to me about, like I said, ferry angles, dangerous hydraulics, cutting eddies, all the various river jargon that I knew nothing about at the time and I'm still learning more about to this day. But my point in all of that is that Steve Giuliotti invested in me, and furthermore, this is not about me. Like, my story's not unique. Like Mr. Galvan said, like, we have 211 pages of letters. If I died tomorrow, I wouldn't get 2. And one of those would probably be from my wife, maybe. But my point is just that Steve invested in so many people, and he invested in colleagues, he invested in students, he invested in this community, and that is why he's deserving of having the science wing named after him. Like, rest assured, this is not a slippery slope argument. Steve Giuliotti was unique in his impact. There is not another like him, and there will probably never be another like him. Mr. Galvan and I stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm stealing that line from Einstein. But we stand on Steve's shoulders, and we continue to impact kids because of Steve and because of the program he started in 1990. So, quite frankly, this is a no-brainer. I understand you have to deliberate. We should name the Doherty Science Wing the Steve Giuliotti Doherty Science Wing. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing to note is that Steve's family is very much in support of this. And at this time, we'll field any questions that you have.
Yeah, and I appreciate both of you being here as well to provide your feedback and personal experiences with Mr. Giuliotti, and I think Director Jurgensen was a student of his, so I'm sure he's going to talk. Truly appreciate your comments about standing in the shoulders of giants, and teachers make such a big difference, and good quality teachers are hard to come by sometimes, and he went out of the way. And I was at his funeral service. Several other board directors were there as well. And you could see the same presence out there with so many people coming from even far off places to pay homage to his service. Mr. Bordeaux, I hope you don't have to die tomorrow. So, Director Jurgensen.
I'm one of those people in that stack of papers there, by the way. As a Doherty grad of 2003 and one who went to Moab that year, I can honestly say with all sincerity that I would not be on this dais or would have been a science teacher if it wasn't for Steve Giuliotti. It was that man who guided me into education. And so everything you've heard about him tonight is true. If you asked any one of those people and you called any one of them, they would say the same thing. So I'm in 100% support of this happening as quickly as possible.
Okay, any other board member comments at this time? Director Ott.
Thank you. I'll just note that, yes, the 200 plus pages, that's a lot of testimonials, and so I'm sure he is very missed, and his impact is very clear. It'll be an easy vote on this one when it comes.
Director Nelson.
Thank you for coming tonight to present and sharing your heartfelt story. When did he pass?
In this past fall.
Okay.
So, yeah, September.
Okay, so recent, so
Yeah.
definitely in your thoughts.
Yeah, he retired in 2018.
Just come up there.
Sorry. He did retire in 2018, and then continued to run the field studies program with us. And that's why we said with his guidance, we've been able to continue to run these field studies programs. And I'm not sure how many of you guys, I know Dr. Parthmo-Palcom is familiar with it a little bit, and so is Mr. Jorgensen. But in terms of what we do on the field studies program, it's more than just a field trip. We take students out for a week to Moab, to the middle of nowhere, Utah, into the Cedar Mesa. We take them snowshoeing and ice fishing. We take them canyoneering. We take them on a 100-mile river trip. So we're whitewater rafting, we're hiking, we're canyoneering, we're snowshoeing, we're ice fishing with anywhere between 15 to 25 students at a time. And so the logistics to putting together four field studies every single year, fall, winter, spring, and summer, is a lot in terms of the amount of gear, in terms of the amount of preparation. And Steve did that starting in 1990 and continued doing that through 2018 when he retired. And then when he retired in 2018, he continued to go on the field studies with us, with students all the way up until 2023. So we still have students that are juniors and seniors at Doherty that went on the field studies with him, that know him, that understand the impact that he's had, that still haven't graduated, and they wrote letters. And so it's amazing to see that book of letters from 1988 students to students that haven't graduated yet, that have told his impact and let us know what he meant. And then, like we said, his legacy continues. We're lucky enough to be able to continue to run this program based off of the advice and the guidance that he continued to give us for years and years after he retired. And then, like I said, in 2023, he was still on the field studies at that point. He had a quick diagnosis and passed pretty quickly after that. And so it was pretty unfortunate, but he was a man of great integrity and a science-minded man. So we are really hoping that this will be an easy decision for you.
Definitely sounds easy. I wish I could have had him as a student. I went to Palmer, so missed out. I hate to bring this up, but I just want the board to be aware that we maybe would have to make a waiver on the policy, because it states that names of individuals will be considered only after they have been retired or deceased for at least 6 years. So that's just something that we're going to have to think about. But
He retired in 2018.
Director Art brought that up as well
okay.
to me, and I said the same thing. He's been retired more than 6 years.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, he
I didn't want to
retired
have
in
to do that.
2018, so, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming tonight.
Yeah. So, thank you. Is this something that has to come to action, or can it go to consent? It can go to consent. Okay. Director Art.
I think it would be more meaningful if we did it as action.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same thing. Okay, you read my mind. So if the board is comfortable with it, I would prefer it coming as action. If his family wants to be there at that point in time, they can be, and any of his colleagues as well, be there to make a comment or statement at that point in time. Thank you for coming and making this presentation. Keep us informed about how this is going to be implemented, if there is going to be a formal ceremony to celebrate that naming of that wing. Keep the board informed so we can attend. Okay, but that is contingent on the board adopting this in the next. But you heard the board comments. This is a no-brainer. So thank you, sir. Moving to the next item on the agenda, this is graduation requirements. The board received and reviewed this information during the February 12th work session. Superintendent Gall, any additional information to the board at this time?
We do not.
Okay. Board, is there anything that you want to discuss at this time? Director Art.
Thank you. I would like for us to reconsider the economic and personal finance option, the two classes as being optional, one or the other. I think we should stick with the economic class, economics, as being a required class. I think
Okay.
it would set our students up better for their futures and a better understanding of the way the world works. beyond just balancing your checkbook and those other fabulous personal financial literacy skills.
Okay, so right now, it's either economics or financial literacy. Is that what you're saying? And you would like that to be economics and financial literacy?
You know, we have a lot of financial literacy built into standards over the years anyway. So I would support either just economics or, if we must, both. But I think economics is pretty key.
I'm going to ask Ms. Ottmer to kind of cover some of the state's position on personal finance to see if it can assuage some of this concern.
In the state legislature right now, there's a proposal moving forward to require personal financial literacy as a graduation requirement across the state. If that goes through, the state does have it written at this point that it could count in either math or social studies. So we did update in the piece that you saw, the proposal that we went forward with last time, we put personal financial literacy in math as well because we increased that requirement from 6 credits to 8 as the board asked. So right now it is in both of those areas, just to let you know.
Does that answer your question, Director Ott?
That takes care of financial literacy, but not affirming that we would keep economics by itself as a requirement.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right at this time, just for clarity's sake, what you are asking is economics be made a requirement and not optional?
Correct.
Okay.
And if we were to do that, just for clarity, Melissa, can we bring up the slides? There's one I just want to put up so we can see what that would do. So you'll remember that the premise of this proposal was to bring more credits into that right-hand column that you see where there's 15 credits to make sure that things like peak experiences that you heard about tonight, that students have places in their credits and their course selections where they can dig in deeply to their personal interests, do that through apprenticeships, internships, and deeper experiences, including peak experiences. If we were to add that requirement, we would just want to make sure, is it going to change the number of credits in each of those columns? Meaning, would we go from 35 and adjust the 15? Or would we eliminate personal financial literacy out of the social studies bucket and have it only count in math so that it wouldn't change any of the credit numbers would be a consideration. Because if you add economics as another requirement, you're going to change those numbers potentially.
We're currently expecting 6, correct?
Correct.
And there are, U.S. history is 1, 2, economics could be 3, government 4, world history is 5, personal finance could be 6, and we could have all of those. But I realize that there are other
Takes
social
away,
studies
yeah, then it takes away choice a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where else would they be learning about economics if not in this class?
So I think when we look at that empowered citizen bucket, we have named some specific courses, but I think one of the things that the task force really emphasized was this idea of meeting the Colorado academic standards. So you have economic standards that you would still have to meet. It would just give you flexibility in how you offer those in a course. So that's where the flexibility comes in.
So a unit of study within another course rather than a standalone course on economics, because we'd still be required to meet those standards.
How do we guarantee then that the student is taking that if they are, like one of my kids, just a history buff and that's all they want?
So it really is kind of how many standards are in the overall social studies standards. So that's only one kind of standard. So that it wouldn't require an entire course necessarily.
You'd place that unit in a required class. And we do that with other standards right now already, where a unit is required within a required course to make sure that we cover all of the standards.
So,
The commitment the administration has made to the board on this large of a change is to really take this next year and measure each student and the choices that they're making for us to see if there are gaps. We're certainly not seeking to create gaps in what we would consider core, but what we were trying to solve was a lack of engagement in students in either their graduate profile or in the pursuit of the value proposition of school itself. I am not a social studies nor economics major, but I would certainly hope that somewhere in U.S. history 1 or 2, depending upon where that break is, that an immense amount of time is on the Great Depression of where there are a lot of economic standards that can be covered. I believe that what we're trying to do is get away from this stacking of math 1, 2, 3, and 4, social studies 1, 2, 3, and 4, English 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then yet still have graduates who are unclear of how those foundational skills are built to translate into either their interest or their opportunity. So we do present this with the request of, I want to be cognizant of not going down the slippery slope of if we add now one in economics, then the next time we will add in one more for the next question or the next question, and then we'll be back in a space where our AP students don't get an opportunity to explore things outside of an AP structure. Because the way the schedule is built is our AP students don't even know that we offer, the state's strongest CTE programming, because they don't get introduced to those things. Now what we want to do is create flexibility. Some of the course catalog is going to have to change to be able to accommodate shift in standards, but an application of knowledge in the learning, not just the traditional. Without a dismiss that there are some things that we believe, at least for this first year, let's hold these fast, and then let's take the measures and then come back to the board and then see if adjustments need to be made. To include student and staff surveys as part of that data mining for next year.
You have a response?
I'll sit tight and think about that some more.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Director Jurgensen.
I believe exactly what Director Ott believes. I think economics should be a standalone course that's required. I took it. It's a whole class in and of itself. It is different than personal finance. And even if you sprinkle in personal finance in other places, whether it's a weak lesson here or there, just understanding how the world economy works through that course, I think is valuable and should be required. So I'm for amending this however you need to take away an or put in an and up in the innovative problem solver. I don't care how you finagle it, but you got another thumb for including an economic class. I think it's important.
Okay, and I saw Director Hafley nodding her head as well, that you are supportive of that.
Economics over personal finance.
Well, I think personal finance is required.
It's an option, that's fine. But
Yeah, they'll be exposed to personal finance a number of different ways as we're being briefed. But to say you could take economics or a personal finance class, I think is what Director Ott's bringing up, and what I agree with is economics should be a required, so take that or out of there. There could be an and there if you wanted. I realize you're limiting one choice there. You're still giving a bunch of choice everywhere else. I don't think it's a slippery slope. I think it's a required piece for graduating an educated citizen.
Okay, thank you, Director Jurgensen. Are there any other comments at this time on anything else regarding graduation requirements or specifically on economics, which I'm going to come to the board at this point in time. You heard Superintendent Gall. There are other board members who had strong opinions about this, and ultimately this approving the graduation requirement falls on the board. Anybody else that want to talk about what I see 3 board members at least expressing a desire to make the economics class a requirement? And Director Bankus is shaking her head in approval as well. Okay, well, I've got the will of the board, so.
we'll rework this proposal and bring it back then.
Okay, yeah, and this will come as action at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not action.
Can I ask just for clarity, is there any other areas that the board wants addressed? Because we're nearing the place where we need to be ready for next year. So I don't want to then have whatever is the next area that comes from either a staff member or a community member to then come back to us to adjust again.
Director Nelson.
I just wanted to propose that we work in somehow, whether it's through a course or if it's like an actual requirement about students taking, and I don't know if we even go so far as to say passing a citizenship test as part of graduating from District 11, to have a solid understanding of our country's principles and what we want empowered citizens to truly understand, as the nation has decided when we have people come and become citizens. So, like I said, I don't know where that would make sense, but I would like for my fellow board members to consider incorporating that somehow in what we do as District 11.
Is that part of U.S. history when they go through the and
Not to take that assessment.
Yep. Let me go ahead.
Assuming everything has remained the same the last 2 years, I can tell you that that would be something that would be covered in a government class. I'm not sure if you're talking about making that a test for graduation or something that is within the class in order to pass the class. But that would be something that's already covered in a government class, or should be.
So you're saying that's already part of what we're doing in District 11, is that all students...
It's part of the curriculum for a government class.
...go through like that test that...
I don't know if the classes actually take a citizenship test, but it's certainly something that is taught upon. And that it might be something that is tested on as a part of a chapter test or a unit test or even a semester final common assessment. But I mean, some teachers might give it as a standalone test. But that would be something that would be left up to them to do. I mean, for example, you have a curriculum you have to follow. How you teach it is up to you. So some teachers may give that as its own standalone test, and then others might include it as a chapter or a unit test. But it is something that is taught already.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And you heard Superintendent Gall. I'm assuming at this point in time, all the revisions that the board requested has been communicated to admin, and nothing is going to change between now and the next time this comes up, so that they are adequately prepared as well. Okay, I don't see anything else, Superintendent Gall. Thank you. Moving on to the next action item, next non-action item on the agenda, which is Levy override MLO amendment. Again, new information, Superintendent Gall.
Yeah, Dr. Comfort and Mr. X.
Good evening again, Board. I'm joined by our Mill Levy Override Oversight Committee Chair, Mr. Chip X. He'll be here to answer any questions that you may have. We are bringing a plan amendment to you tonight where we want to allocate some existing non-recurring money. The MLO has its own contingency fund, and so we want to allocate part of that contingency fund to two pieces. One being, if you remember, in the mid-year budget, we did bring a $3.5 million ask for elementary ELA curriculum. And so this $1.5 million is for the secondary ELA curriculum. I'm not, again, naming any specific curriculum because that still has to go through a process, but this is to fund the RFP to allow us to purchase a curriculum. And then the second ask that you see is $100,000. That is required in the MLO that we do a 3-year triennial review of the MLO. And so that is due this year, and so we want to accomplish that this spring and would like to use some of our non-recurring money to fund it. And that's what I have.
Does Mr. X want to talk about anything that transpired in the committee?
Sure. First of all, thank you for keeping me up past my bedtime. And Dr. X actually had Mr. Giuliotti as a teacher at Mitchell High School. I can. I'm still not awake, I guess. No. As you know, the mill levy there's 2 mill levies, and the total is around $70 million. So regardless of what the state does with the budget, that $70 million comes in every year. And our job is basically to be your eyes and ears on how that money is spent, and along with the district treasurer, board treasurer, Lauren Nelson, we meet once a month and we go over the plans. Now, what's nice about this is that money, that $1.5 million, goes into another plan that's still within the mill levy. So we will be requiring them to produce to us to make sure the money is being spent correctly for you, right? For that $1.5 million. And then $100,000 for the review, the audit that's done every 3 years I can remember being on one of the first ones when it was just the 2000 mill levy. So that's what we do, and we're here at your request and at your approval. And we ask that you consider finding some of your friends that might be interested in joining our committee. And if so, we'd love to have them. And that's about what I have. I've been involved with the district since he was in high school. So,
okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Board? Any questions? Director Art?
Not a question. I'm fine with this change. I would just ask that in the recommended motion, we mention the amounts when those are prepared next time. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Could you note that down, Ms. Olson? What Director Art requested is that when this comes as an action agenda item, the amounts are specifically noted in the... Perfect, thank you. Seeing no further comments, thank you. Thank you for bringing this up, and we apologize for keeping you past your bedtime.
I'll survive.
Well, you got to watch some of our kids come and present to the board, so thank you. But thank you for the work that your committee is also doing. Appreciate it. The last item on the agenda today is Benefits Insurance Committee Plan Design and Premium Recommendations. This comes in front of the board at this time of the year. Superintendent Gall.
Ms. Reigers and Dr. Comfort and team.
Okay.
Jessica.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. Superintendent Gall, thank you for having me. I am here, and I come back every year to present to you the Insurance Committee's recommendation for our health plan design for the following fiscal year. So this evening, I will be presenting to you the FY 25-26 Benefits Insurance Committee Plan Design and Premium Recommendations. First, I do want to thank the Insurance Committee for all of the work that they have put into the recommendation for this evening. I know we have a couple here in the audience with us tonight, so thank you all so much for your work. A little bit of background. Do I have the clicker? No? Is it on? That would be a good one. Thank you. It is on, it's still not working. Let's see. There we go. Let me see if it, okay. Looks like we're working now. So just a little bit of background. The district was self-insured since 2004, but in 2023, the board charged us with going through an RFP to ensure that we were participating in the most effective, cost-effective plan for the school district. So in 2023, we went out for an RFP for our medical and our prescription plans, and our new health plan with Kaiser Permanente was effective on July 1 of 2023. As a reminder, the annual charge that the board has charged us with every year is to, number one, review the existing health plan design to ensure that we are providing the best valued plan for the district's financial parameters, building a well-rounded wellness program with the assistance of our healthcare partners with the goal of creating long-lasting district-specific strategies aimed at member engagement and cost control for the district. and to continue to measure the current fiscal year total cost of our health plan and prescription claims as compared to the prior fiscal year to ensure that we can have a goal of identifying any cost containment strategies to bring forward into the following years. So some of the challenges that we face every year: number one, rising healthcare costs. The average for Colorado is an increase of 10 to 12% this year. Increased utilization in our health plan participation, managing the District 11 budget, our aging workforce, and encouraging our members to participate in managing their own health care, which in turn would keep our rates lower. So just a little bit of a highlight on Kaiser as a reminder of what we have in our current plan. We do have a larger network with Kaiser Colorado Springs. It is truly an open network. So not only do we have access to all of the Kaiser physicians, we also have UC Health and Centura. We also have a partnership with One Medical, which was previously Peak Med, where they have 3 brick and mortar locations for primary care. We have a dual plan option that we implemented in July 1 of 2023, where our members were able to choose the buy-up or the base plan so that they can choose the plan and the premiums that would work best for themselves and their family. Some value-added benefits: we have massage therapy, which we have about 8,000 members that have taken, or 8,000 appointments that have been used this plan year, so we know it's been a really successful addition to our plan. Acupuncture, chiropractic, we have hearing care, and enhanced member experience with 24/7 access to virtual doctors. We also have enhanced benefits for behavioral health through the Calm app and Headspace Care, and then we have a full list of all of the self-care apps on the Kaiser website, kp.org/selfcare apps. One Medical, again, formerly Peak Med. This is our direct primary care provider that offers on-site services at the 3 brick and mortar locations here in town. It is not going to necessarily replace the primary care that our members are utilizing now, but can be if they wish to utilize a $0 copay per visit. They have same-day, next-day appointments, on-site labs and medications, 24/7 access to their physicians. They offer specialty physician consults, and they now have weekend appointments available. So it's a really cost-effective way for our members to seek primary care if they would like to switch to Peak Med or One Medical. So I just wanted to highlight our current dual plan design. I know this is small, but on the left-hand side in the green, you have our buy-up plan or our Kaiser 1500 plan. This offers you a lower deductible, lower out-of-pocket. We also have on this plan a 20% co-insurance, $0 for chiropractic, massage therapy, and flat fees for MRIs and ambulance care. On the base plan on the right, under the red column, we have the Kaiser 5000 plan. This is going to have a higher deductible and out-of-pocket, 30% co-insurance, and there is no massage therapy currently on this plan. This is going to give you an idea of our current plan participation. We have 86% of our employees that are participating in our buy-up plan, and 14% of our members are employees that are participating in the base plan. So getting into our recommendations for the next fiscal year. For the renewal, Kaiser came to us with a 9.5% premium increase, which was our contracted cap in our contract for this fiscal year. If we did nothing at all, the premium increase would have been the 9.5%. The insurance committee reviewed many options that would keep it at the 9.5% premium increase or lower that increase while also enhancing the base plan for our members. So next, I will review what those recommendations are from the insurance committee. So after reviewing many options, the insurance committee was able to recommend a plan design change that would also bring the premium increase down to 6.6%. We are recommending to lower the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximum on the base plan, adding that coveted massage therapy to the base plan at a $30 copay. So one of our largest facilities that offers massage, chiropractic, and acupuncture said that they had nearly 8,000 appointments that were utilized in the last fiscal year, about 11.22 visits per person. So we wanted to ensure that our members on the base plan had the opportunity to utilize those services as well, just at a little higher cost than on the buy-up plan. We are recommending to increase the emergency room copay from $250 per visit to $500 per visit. We do realize that ER visits can be a very costly benefit to a plan, with the average cost of about $4,000 to the health plan for an ER visit. So increasing that would assist in that premium going down for all of our members. This ER copay is waived if our members are actually admitted to the hospital, so that is good. And we also did some research on the number of visits to ER, and most of them are avoidable visits. So we really want to try to encourage our members to utilize the One Medical, their current primary care, urgent care, or even those virtual visits with their physicians in place of an emergency room if they can. The last recommendation is to remove the Plus Rider from the base and the buy-up plan. The Plus Rider was something that Kaiser added to our plan when we first started with them on July 1st of 2023 to kind of bridge the gap if there were any known gaps of their providers not being part of our network. But when we looked at the participation in those that utilize the Plus Rider, which is 20 visits per member per year, that they could use an outside provider, only 60 members utilized this service, 5 of which are no longer on our plan. Out of those services that were utilized outside of our plan, it was primary care, physical therapy, dermatology, family practice, and chiropractic. And all of these services are available with in-network providers, which we feel that our members could be contacted by Kaiser and moved to in-network providers to save not only the plan money, but themselves money as well. Kaiser did say that they will contact those 60 members or 55 members and let them know of any providers that they could use within our network. And by removing this Plus Rider, this is actually saving our plan $750,000 annually, which accounts for the largest portion of that premium reduction from that 9.5% to the 6.6%. The insurance committee is also recommending that there are no changes to plan designer premiums for our dental, our vision, life insurance, or disability. We're on rate guarantees on those plans for this year. This slide is going to show you the recommended plan design. So on the left, again, we have the buy-up plan, or the Kaiser 1500 plan. The changes in red are items that are being increased or taken off of the plan, and those in green are going to be beneficial to the plans. So on the buy-up plan, you will see the emergency room copay, $500, and then that out-of-network benefit as a non-covered benefit. On the base plan, the deductible and the out-of-pocket have been decreased. They are increasing the copay for the emergency room, removing that out-of-network benefit, and then also adding massage therapy for a $30 copay for the 20 visits per contract year. So I know one of the biggest concerns the insurance committee had when we were talking about removing that Plus Rider from our plan is, what do we do with out-of-state dependents who are in school? And that is a separate benefit under the Kaiser plan, so that is not going away. Our out-of-area benefits for dependents will remain as they're shown on the screen. And then, as always, medically necessary urgent and emergent care will always be covered for our members when they're out of the service area. Next, I will go over the health plan premium recommendation. So on the buy-up plan, which is the top section in green, you'll see the 6.6% premium increase. This will increase the employee-only premium by $11.17 per month, down to the family coverage, which would increase $38.52 per month. The district cost is increasing as well, which you'll see in the district cost monthly increase. On the base plan, in this model, we are looking at moving to a flat dollar-based contribution, which would set a predictable budget for the district's budget. So that regardless of where the employees elect, if it's an employee only going on to the buy-up plan or the base plan, the district's budget, we would know exactly where it is going to be. So with the base plan, if we were just to copy and paste those premiums from the district cost from the buy-up plan down to the base plan, you'll see that the employee only is increasing by $5.74, and then all of the others are actually decreasing in cost per month. The employee and family in this model would actually save almost $1,700 a year in premium, and we do believe that this more closely aligns with what the deductible and out-of-pockets are on that base plan. The district's annual budget would increase 1.58 million in this model.
So since you're on the slide, the district cost is going to increase in the base plan for the last three rows, employee and spouse, but the employee cost decreases. Could you explain that?
Correct. That decreases because we are taking the 75-25 and the 70-30 split from the buy-up plan and having a flat contribution for the base plan.
Okay. That was the recommendation that came from the committee?
Insurance committee.
Okay.
The other recommendation is to just maintain our current providers that we have with Kaiser Permanente, Delta Dental, iMed Vision Care, Sun Life Financial, and Rocky Mountain Reserve. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Director Nelson.
Yeah, can you go back to that slide that he had the question on? So if I were to word it in a different way, would it be fair to say that the district percentage of coverage on the base plan has increased?
Correct.
So that the flat rate is the same?
Correct.
And you're saying that's to help us be able to budget more effectively, or?
Right. Every member currently that's on the buy-up plan costs the district more money, and every member that's on the base plan saves the district money. But in order to help with the budgeting, we have a flat contribution, so we know exactly what we're budgeting based on the number of members that are on our plan.
Okay. Could, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I might reach out to you, Dr. Comfort, just to see, like, if we were to keep the same percentages, what would the cost to the district difference be?
And I do have that if you'd like me to put it on the board
Sure.
doc.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
That was the insurance committee's second recommendation,
Oh,
if so we were going to show that as well. Yes, no, maybe?
Look at that. It's very cool. It's overhead.
Okay. Am I able to zoom in on that, Melissa?
No, I think you're good. A little bigger.
Okay, so you'll see that the district's annual budget in this model, where we keep the contributions the same, or the percentages the same as they are this year, the district's budget is 1.46 million, and in the model that the insurance committee recommended, it's 1.58 million. So in this model, by encouraging members to move to the base plan, we would be saving the district money because of the district cost. But at this time, we do have the 16% participating in that plan, or 14%.
And you think by going with the recommendation from the committee, more people will gravitate towards the base plan?
Correct.
Okay.
Because we've also lowered the deductible and the out-of-pocket on that base plan.
Okay. Okay, thank you for
You're welcome.
explaining that.
Director Bankus.
Yes, on the slide on number 9, where you have the pie graph, have the numbers stayed constant since we've moved to this plan, with 14% at the basic and 86% at the buy-up?
So in the old plan, in the old model, when we were self-funded, our employees needed to participate in a health promotion program in order to earn the buy-up plan, or they were placed into the base plan. So the contributions were, it was a little bit different. What I can say is that the participation in our self-funded plan was actually lower than our current participation in the Kaiser plan. So we had, when I last reviewed the numbers from our self-funded plan, we had 2,134 participants for employees, and we have 2,217 participating in the Kaiser plan total.
And then when I looked at the modest increase, I was wondering where it was coming from, and so it was taking out the 20 out of network And you've already answered that question in contacting those folks and letting them know. The other thing that I remember is anytime you change systems, there's always ruffles. And so have those all been pretty much resolved with medications that people were using under the old system and then coming into the new system, still having availability, and is it running smoothly, I guess is what I'm asking.
It's much more smooth than it was. Andrea is the one that fields most of those phone calls. But I'd say that there's still some confusion about medications, or maybe some medications that were covered in our old plan that a different formulation is covered under our new plan. But we do have a wonderful customer service team at d11@kp.org that take all of those questions and assist members in those medications.
Yeah,
Anything else you
my
wanna add?
concern is I don't want anyone not to be able to get their medications.
Do you want to?
Sure. Hi, Andrea Palos.
Hi, and you need to speak into the mic, please.
So medication shouldn't change with this design plan. The prescription program will remain the same as it is now. So we have seen great improvement. We hit some bumps at the beginning of the plan with people not familiar with having to go to a Kaiser facility to fulfill their maintenance drugs. But within the last year or so, we have definitely smoothed that system out, and it's gone a lot smoother. This should not affect, with the breakdown of how we're looking at this renewal, should not affect the prescription situation at all.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you.
And to clarify that point, Director Bankus, it is determined on how one interprets their definition of medication. And again, without being a doctor, ibuprofen and I guess Motrin are the same, what's the word, design or
Formulary.
What's that?
Yeah.
Formula. There are several members that are in our new plan that are very disappointed that the name of the last medication that the previous plan did cover is not covered, but the formula from the HMO's perspective is met. But you will get feedback tonight that will say that what we just said was not true because somebody's version of a specific named medicine, which they firmly believe has a significant medical difference than a pharmacy's version that says formulaically they are the same. We are engaged with our healthcare plan on those, but I don't think we have reached satisfaction for several staff members who have been affected by that change.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Director Jorgensen.
I just had a quick question on, you mentioned the RFP process, which is great. When do we do the RFP process for like the Sun Life, for like the life and accident and all that? What's that cycle on making sure there's still the most beneficial for offering that when you come into the room on the lunch break and going, do you want this, that, and the other? And
We can certainly do that any year we choose to do that. I think we're on a 2 more year rate guarantee with them.
Okay.
And then we can ask our insurance consultants to review an RFP.
when do we get that rate guarantee with Sun Life?
7/1 of every year
Okay.
is when our plan year starts, and we usually get that information by December, January.
You mentioned we have a 2-year more rate lock, excuse me. So was that started 3 years ago and it was a 5-year rate lock, or?
Usually it's 3 years at a time.
Okay, so we just got it this January and we got 2 more.
Mhm.
Okay, or just July, excuse me.
July.
Yeah, thank you, that's all I
You're
had.
welcome.
Thank you. Any other feedback or questions? I don't see anything at this time. Ms. Strikers, is there any other discussion that happened at the committee level that the board should be aware of? Any positive feedback or concerns that were expressed in the committee?
No, I think that everyone was really happy that we were able to find some areas in our health plan to bring that premium increase down for our employees and not have to stick with the 9.5%. We were able to get that lower for them.
Okay.
Yeah. And lower the deductible and out-of-pocket for our base plan.
Okay. Director Bankus.
I want to speak once more about the progress that District 11 is making. I've been in this city for a long time, and I remember a couple of decades ago, a board member expressing frustration that, gee, do we lower our medical benefits cost and not get, if we do that, then that takes money away from the compensation for our teachers? Or do we give our teachers the compensation and raise their medical benefit cost? I think we made great progress, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank your committee, and I want to thank this board and the superintendent that we are no longer in that quandary, that these medical benefits, I would like to be able to participate in them. And they're reasonable, and we're not taking away compensation in order to bolster, and we're not elevating the cost of this so it becomes prohibitive. So thank you all.
Thank you.
It's probably not mine to offer, but you're not the first board member who has been attracted to the benefits. And so I offer to the board as temporary employees, if the board were willing to want to allow you all at cost to participate in our program, I think because you're listed as temporary employees, it could be something that we could accommodate if the board were interested. At cost, I mean, right.
Is that something the board wants to consider at this
That's
time?
maybe a future item. I just offered it as an aside.
Okay.
It's not mine to direct your agenda. My apologies.
Thank you. Thank you for providing the feedback to the board. To the community, I want to share to the people that are watching, District 11 has one of the most robust and attractive health insurance package, especially for families, compared to any of the other surrounding school district. It is something that the board, previous boards, and the current board has invested money in. And it's something that is used as a recruiting opportunity as well. So thank you for bringing this feedback. This will come as an action item at the next board meeting, and we'll go on from there. Thank you. Okay, with that, future agenda item request. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to review the calendar. Tomorrow, as has been pointed out by several board directors, we do have the last board listening session at Doherty at 5:30. 5:30 is the start time. Wednesday, March 12th, we have a board retreat, and the location, Ms. Olson will share it. I think it's going to be on North Nevada at the Exponential Impact Campus. But Ms. Olson will share it with the board and also in the public agenda, if public, it's open to the public. Wednesday, March 19th, we'll have a work session, and then we'll head into spring break. Seeing no further discussions, if there are no, Director Hart.
My apologies, fellow board members. I forgot to sign and send down the resolutions, so please don't go anywhere. I had a note, thank you, Melissa, but, so, I'm gonna send these. Don't go anywhere until you sign all the resolutions. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. Thank you.
So there are
Apologies.
several resolutions that will be, that will require board member signatures. The meeting will adjourn at 8:59 p.m.